Chapter 2130. Who is it? Bastard. Do you know who we are? In an indescribable chaos, Gu Duxing had already fallen into the crowd with his sword. His sword flashed in the air, and with a loud bang, 7 or 8 people had already fallen under his sword. His face was cold and his lips were pursed. His face was cold and full of killing intent. At this moment, those people finally realized what was going on. One by one, they pulled out their swords to defend themselves. Gu Duxing immediately felt the pressure increase rapidly. Even with his current peak saint-level cultivation, he still felt like he was facing a strong enemy. In other words, these people in front of him were not simple. At least, their strength was not simple. He couldn't help but feel a little surprised. He didn't expect that such a scoundrel would bring so many experts with him. But how could Gu Duxing care about so much at this moment? Raising his invincible might, he brandished his sword and unleashed the full power of the solitary unruffled sword art. With him around, he was invincible. Of the 40 to 50 people in front of him, 30 to 40 had already been killed by him. The others saw that something was wrong and fled in all directions. Gu Duxing's killing intent was blazing. How could he let them escape? He shouted, "A bunch of scums still want to escape? All of you die." He chased after them with his sword, and one by one, the enemies died under his sword. But there was still one person who fled, rolling and crawling, and fell down the cliff in a panic. Although Gu Duxing wanted to confirm whether he was dead or alive, the cliff was bottomless. He guessed that it would be difficult for that person to survive, so he gave up. When Gu Duxing turned around, he saw that the old man had already been helped up. He was leading 7 or 8 women, and they were kneeling down in front of him. Gu Duxing sighed. "All of you, get up. Find another place and spend the rest of your lives well. There should be half of your life's savings in here. I don't think it will be too difficult." He shook his head and turned around to leave. "Benefactor, please wait," the old man called out. Gu Duxing walked along the mountain path with a calm expression. When he was eating, he took out a black wooden box from his clothes. This was the reward that the old man gave him. "Benefactor, it was because of this that my entire family was exterminated. Treasures can only be obtained by the virtuous. This old man is not virtuous. Treasures can only be obtained by the virtuous. This old man has caused great trouble. I hope that benefactor will accept it. This old man and his entire family will forever be grateful." Gu Duxing looked at the black wooden box in his hand. He opened it and saw a jade slip inside. He tried to use his cultivation to touch it, but there was no reaction. In a moment of excitement, he used his own sword chi to activate it. Suddenly, the jade slip shone brightly. A wisp of sword energy shot out from the jade scroll and into Gu Duxing's forehead. Gu Duxing instantly felt that the world was spinning, and he actually tripped and fell. After a long time, he digested the huge amount of information from the jade slip, and his eyes lit up. Cloudy Heaven Sword Chi? Gu Duxing sped all the way. But when he was 800 miles away, he was intercepted again. The reason for the attack was very simple and pure. It was because he saw injustice and drew his sword to kill. And the person that Gu Duxing killed was coincidentally the only son of an amazing big shot. After a bloody battle, Gu Duxing was covered in blood. He rushed out of the encirclement and fled. Gu Duxing, the master of Heavenly Armament Pavilion, suddenly went from being surrounded by people to fleeing for thousands of miles. When he started to flee, he even thought of Chu Yang. As expected of brothers. Even their encounters are similar. This time, it seems like we are brothers in the same boat. As Gu Duxing fled, he mocked himself. Big brother killed Mo Yun Tian Tai and is being hunted down. Although the one I killed here is not as famous as the one Big Brother killed, he is not a simple character either. The opponent's strength is extremely high. I can't fight against him. I can only follow Big Brother's example and escape. The enemy behind him was like a maggot in his bones. Gu Duxing did not dare to be careless. He fought and fled like this. No one knew that a peerless swordsman was rapidly growing in this place where he had to flee for his life. Perhaps, when Gu Duxing turned around again and killed that terrifying enemy, It would be the moment when he shocked the world with his sword, in another direction, in another world. It seemed like it was not a coincidence, but a coincidence. In any case, Dong Wuxiang was also fleeing in a sorry state right now. Because his heavenly armament pavilion had been too unbridled in their actions, they had finally provoked a big trouble. They were besieged by the combined forces of the heavenly armament pavilion and two major sections. The force of thousands of people vanished overnight, completely uprooted. Dong Wuxiang escaped with his life. He rushed all the way. Finally, when he could not hold on any longer, he jumped down a cliff. Below the cliff was the Mist River. Dong Wuxiang also got a chance to catch his breath. It seemed that cliffs and precipices were really not dangerous places to take people's lives. Very few people who fell down were really finished. In the cold river water, Dong Wuxiang's face was full of anger. With the black saber in his hand, Dong Wuxiang looked up to the sky and shouted, "Today's enmity. I, Dong Wuxiang, swear to the heavens that I will take revenge at all costs. If I violate this oath, may the heavens and earth destroy me." This kind of deep hatred, for the first time, rose in Dong Wuxiang's heroic heart and took root. And in the same world, there was another force of heavenly armament pavilion coming towards Dong Wuxiang. The name of this heavenly armament pavilion was Black Devil. The person in charge was Immortal. It was because of this encirclement that Immortal finally found out about Dong Wuxiang's specific whereabouts. She rushed over as fast as a spark but was still a step too late. Until a few days later, when she finally found Dong Wuxiang, because Dong Wuxiang was seriously injured and had fought many fierce battles consecutively, his injuries were even more serious. He was almost unrecognizable. Immortal led her troops to attack, snatched Dong Wuxiang and left. In this world, the husband and wife fought and killed along the way. Blood filled the sky along the way. Immortal's subordinates were constantly sacrificed. The hearts of the two, who had always valued friendship, were bleeding. But in the face of such a strong enemy, there was nothing they could do. They could only continue to flee. But the seed of hatred was buried deeper and deeper. No one knew that the reason why the Heaven Imperial Court became the #1 assassin organization was because of this pursuit. The future Wind Cloud Saber Emperor also truly mastered his butcher's saber during this escape, with a ruthless heart for revenge. The other brothers also had their own encounters. It seemed as if there had been a chain reaction after Chu Yang's incident. Everyone's originally smooth-sailing days had come to an end at the same time. Everyone suddenly fell into a perilous situation. Everyone was in a life-or-death situation. No matter when they were fighting or fleeing, they were all thinking, if my brothers were by my side at this moment, who would dare to bully me? If everyone gathered together at this moment, I wonder how they are now? Are they well? Every time they fell into a desperate situation, every time they were heavily surrounded and seriously injured, there was only one thing that kept them going. I haven't reunited with my brothers. We haven't reunited. We haven't seen each other. I can't die. Boss once said that we must all stand at the peak. I must live on. I must live on. Together with my brothers, I must reach the peak that we agreed on. Among these people, GMO and Luo Kudi were the two who suffered the most. Besides their own personalities, it was also because of their fearless style. They would offend even if they had no enmity with them, not to mention those who had enmity with them. The two of them were almost ganged up on in their own worlds. But it was in such an iron-blooded Jianghu that these two iron-blooded men grew up. They shed their previous immaturity and recklessness, and walked through blood and fire. The encounters of the brothers were not a big deal in their own worlds. But when they acted together, they set off a storm together. If someone who was familiar with them could sort out all these things, they would realize that the storm in the Heaven Imperial Court was escalating because of these people. Furthermore, it could be seen that these people were constantly growing stronger and stronger in this place where the winds and clouds were constantly changing among the brothers. Another one worth mentioning was Xie Dan Qiong. The world where this noble was at was Ink Cloud Sky. Now that Ink Cloud Sky was in turmoil, Xie Dan Qiong also added a lot of new colors to the storm. After hearing that Ink Cloud Sky Emperor's army went out to encircle and annihilate Chu Yang, after hearing that the three big sects sent people to capture Chu Yang regardless of right and wrong, Xie Dan Qiong exploded. Brilliant viburnum flowers bloomed in Iron Sword sect almost at the first moment. Starting from Iron Sword sect, Xie Dan Qiong started to endlessly harass and attack. The three big sects' mountain gates were burned continuously, and their disciples were robbed and killed continuously. Not only the three big sects, but also Ink Cloud Sky's officials. Or it could be said that they were the people that Xie Dan Qiong hated the most. There were constantly official warehouses being robbed, official stations and places being burned. Xie Dan Qiong had always been meticulous in his thinking. He had always planned before acting. He rarely acted excessively. He had almost never acted so crazily. However, at this time, Xie Dan Qiong led the Heavenly Armament Pavilion that he had founded and launched an unscrupulous revenge in Mo Yun Tian. Once a very calm person went crazy, how much energy could he explode? Just as big as Xie Dan Qiong. For a moment, the area where Xie Dan Qiong was at suddenly sunk into an unprecedentedly terrifying atmosphere. The military, officials, and people from the three big sects did not know at all. They did not understand what kind of craziness this newly promoted little fellow had. But at the same time, they realized another point. If this bastard doesn't die, there will never be a day of peace. Therefore, the top forces of Ink Cloud Sky started a large-scale encirclement and annihilation operation. Xie Dan Qiong did not show any weakness towards this. While he was hiding and fleeing, he still did not forget to counterattack anytime and anywhere, destruction, ambush, arson, murder. He was using all his power to do something that made some big shots think was very laughable. I'll drag the power here so that the boss side can reduce some pressure relatively. Percent. Chapter 2131. How great was the power of heaven and earth? No matter how good Xie Dan Qiong was, the attention he attracted was not even 1/1000th of Mo Yuntian's overall strength. In fact, it was not even 1/10,000th. However, Xie Dan Qiong stubbornly persevered. He was unyielding and fearless with his ever-blooming viburnum flower. He used all kinds of methods that he should not have used to harass and fight. He also used all kinds of methods to continuously improve himself. After a period of encirclement and suppression, many experts from the three great sects and the government were surprised to find that although the number of people in the Heavenly Armament Pavilion was decreasing, their destructive power was increasing. They were like unkillable cockroaches. They were getting more and more annoying. This was especially true for the leader called Xie Dan Qiong. In the beginning, he could only attack and then retreat. At best, he was a small character like a joke. However, after a period of time, his blooming viburnum flower could actually kill a saint-level expert. It was effortless. Fire, theft, and viburnum flowers. Kill Xie Dan Qiong first. Talk about other things later. With this decision, Xie Dan Qiong's situation became more and more difficult and dangerous. However, Xie Dan Qiong was not afraid. Instead, he became more and more spirited. On one of the main roads leading to Lone Bamboo City, there was a girl in white. She looked at the people in front of her with a face full of impatience and disdain. The people in front of her were a team of bear men. The bear man in front of her was full of anger. Lowly slave, my clansmen only wanted to make friends with you, and you actually used such a vicious poison on them. Hurry up and hand over the antidote. If my people die, I will bury you with them. The bear man shouted anxiously. Behind him, the two bear men were constantly emitting white mist. Clearly, they were using all their strength to maintain the life of the bearman lying on the ground. However, those with discerning eyes could already see that the two bear men were barely keeping the bearman alive. Moreover, as the poison spread, the effect of the two bearmen's cultivation was getting weaker and weaker. They might not be able to hold on at any time. Many bear men looked at each other in horror. What kind of poison was this? It could not even force out two saint-level experts. It was not even enough to keep him alive. What a terrifying poison. The girl in white said indifferently, "Make friends? Do you have to use force to make friends? Would there be aphrodisiacs in making friends? If I can make friends like this, then I've learned something today. Or perhaps I should say that your culture here is very unique, that's all. She pondered for a moment and then sneered. If that's really the case, then I don't mind introducing a few friends to those who have sisters, wives, and concubines. I believe you won't mind. No, you should be happy to see it happen, right? The other party would never have thought that this seemingly weak, beautiful, and innocent little girl would actually be so crafty when she spoke, hitting the nail on the head and leaving no room for negotiation. Bitch, you're courting death. The leader of the bear men flew into a rage, no longer concealing his intention to intimidate her. It was obvious that he was about to make a move. The white-clothed girl smiled coldly. What? Did I hit a sore spot? Are you going to resort to violence if you can't win with words? Listen to my advice. Hurry up and open up a path. Even a good dog wouldn't block the road, let alone a bear. If you can't use your mouth, then you can't even use your hands. The surrounding bear men roared and pounced forward. The white-clothed girl looked at them coldly, not panicking in the slightest. She only lightly said, "Do you really have to try? Then you're courting death. Don't blame me." Suddenly, her sleeves fluttered as she retreated. Her posture was as graceful as an immortal's. She didn't seem to be in a rush, but she quietly escaped from the encirclement of the bear men. After she retreated 10 feet, she suddenly said coldly, "Why aren't you falling yet?" The bear men who had pounced forward suddenly fell from the sky. Their muscles and bones were all numb, and they couldn't move at all. Then, they felt their vision darken, and they couldn't use any strength in their bodies. The previous incident had already reminded them that this seemingly delicate little girl was an expert in using poison. Moreover, she was an expert in using poison who would not show any mercy. Thus, everyone had already held their breaths from the beginning and even covered their bodies with their own cultivation. They had to make sure that the other party's poison would not be able to take advantage of them, but even in their dreams, they would never have thought that even though they held their breaths and used their cultivation to protect their bodies, they would still be poisoned. What the hell is going on? Why was it like this? For hundreds of thousands of years, using poison as a means of attack could only be considered an unorthodox trick. Since ancient times, only the Sky Poison sect had such a strange method. But which sect used poison to arouse everyone's suspicions and was wiped out hundreds of thousands of years ago? Even the entire sect was burned to the ground. Now, why would such a method of using poison suddenly appear? For a moment, the bear men looked at the white-clothed girl in front of them with bewilderment and inexplicable fear. An old bear man stepped forward and said in a deep voice, "Miss, we should not have offended you. But since you've already punished them, why don't you stop now? It's better to squash enmity rather than keep it alive. Leave a line for us so that we can meet again in the future. Miss, please bestow the antidote. This old man can guarantee that we won't offend you again." The white-clothed girl said coldly, "If you know what's good for you, I won't kill you. But there's only one chance. If you still want to do something, then I won't let you off so easily." She waved her hand lightly. She didn't use any method, nor did she release any strange smell, but the bear men who were poisoned suddenly felt their senses returning to their bodies. Their strength was also slowly recovering. Obviously, the poison had been cured. He had been poisoned without a sound. The poison had been neutralized without a sound. This process was full of strangeness and incredulity, but it really happened and they experienced it personally. These people were all saint-level cultivators, but they didn't notice anything strange at all. What kind of method was this? The bear men's eyes were filled with heartfelt fear. The white-clothed girl snorted and said, "The poison is gone. I'll take my leave now. If you're not convinced and want to get back at me, feel free to come to Lone Bamboo City to find me." The white-clothed figure floated up, and the white-clothed girl flew away like a cloud. The bear man leader said loudly, "May I know your name, miss?" A cold voice came from afar. "My surname is Chu, and my name is Chu Lu. If you're not convinced and want to take revenge, I'll definitely make your lives full of fun. I'll repeat this one last time. There's only one chance." In an instant, the person disappeared. "Chu Lu," the bear man leader muttered. Suddenly, he sucked in a breath of cold air and grinned, Could it be the legendary Miss Heavenly Poison who killed more than 3,000 experts with her poison? Taking people's lives while talking and laughing, invisible and traceless. Invisible and traceless. It's actually her? If it's really her, should we be happy or not? The bear men were stunned for a moment, and a wave of lingering fear arose spontaneously, especially those who had fallen to the ground from the poison. Their faces instantly turned pale, and cold sweat broke out all over their bodies. They circulated their inner breath dozens of times to check if there was any trace of poison left in their bodies. They knew that it was useless. If there was residual poison, would it be useful to circulate their inner breath? If there was no residual poison, it would be even more meaningless to circulate their inner breath. After tormenting themselves for half a day, even if they didn't find any trace of residual poison, their hearts were still uneasy. They were afraid that there was still some unknown hidden poison that could flare up at any time. The deterrence of the name, Heavenly Poison, was obvious. The last bear man who spoke was stunned for a moment. He suddenly turned around and slapped the bear man who had poisoned him. "You bastard, don't you have eyes? You bastard, can't you tease anyone? Why do you have to tease the number 1 female Maleficent star? No one will stop you if you want to die, but don't drag everyone down with you." That bear man had just been detoxified. He was the first to be poisoned, and the poison was extremely deep. He was almost done for just now, and his entire body was powerless. This sudden slap caused his entire bear head to tilt, and he spat out 3 teeth. He wanted to cry but had no tears. How would I know that this is Miss Heavenly Poison? Shouldn't a person called Miss Heavenly Poison have a face full of poisonous boils and poison all over her body? How can she be so beautiful, pure, and cute? This doesn't make sense. No matter where you go, it doesn't make sense. Everyone was speechless. But when they recalled Miss Heavenly Poison's appearance just now, everyone couldn't help but sigh. That little bastard was a bastard, but what he said wasn't without reason. That young lady was gentle and weak, and looked obedient. Her eyebrows were curved, and she should be a gentle and lovely person. Her entire body was exuding childishness and innocence. Not to mention that bastard, even they would never have thought that this was Miss Heavenly Poison. Pass down the order, do not provoke that female fiend. We can't afford to provoke her. Also, spread another piece of news, saying that. The bear elder hesitated for a while, and finally said, saying that the successor of Heavenly Poison has reappeared in the martial world. Be careful. Yes. Lone Bamboo City was now almost the world of Mo Yuntian's military. Mo Yuntian's soldiers were stationed at every 3 steps, and a sentry every 5 steps. They even sealed off the 4 city gates, and only allowed people to enter and not leave. In the sky, there were no less than 500 Saint-level experts keeping a close watch. Every single person who appeared in Lone Bamboo City was subject to double checks. Double checks from the sky and the ground. As long as there was a slight suspicion, they would be directly brought in, and then a few Saint-level experts would perform the bone cleansing technique. This technique could remove any disguise and restore one's original appearance. Originally, it was an extremely useless technique in the Heavenly Imperial Court, but now, it had become the most popular technique in Lone Bamboo City. After going through the checks, those who didn't have any abnormalities would be marked with a divine sense mark, so that they could be distinguished. Chapter 2132. In other words, with such a divine sense on them, it was equivalent to being safe and would not be investigated again. In this way, countless crooks and thieves, innumerable great bandits were arrested just like that. Although Mo Yuntian had no interest in them, the officials of the Demon Emperor Heaven were very interested in them. Therefore, these people were all transferred to other places. Countless major cases that had been accumulated for decades, centuries, or even thousands of years were mysteriously solved just like that. This could not be said to be a miracle. The joint efforts of 2 great heavens to solve cases, in the history of Heaven Imperial Court, this was also the first time since the beginning of time. And this seemed to be not only unprecedented, but also impossible to be replicated. And to Chu Yang and the rest, deploying such an inescapable search was also an absolute disaster. If this search continued, sooner or later, there would be no place for them to hide. If everyone else in the city was marked with a divine sense mark, then these 20 to 30 people without divine sense marks would be like bright lights in the dark night, attracting attention. They were really too different. Moreover, Master Yuqi activated the saint-level divination technique and found all the underground structures in the entire lone bamboo city, even some tunnels that had been silted up for decades, all of them. Wanting to hide underground again became an extravagant hope. With 50,000 experts working together, it was enough to find an ant in a mountain. But Chu Yang's current situation was still relatively free. After all, he was now with Yao Ningning. Even if he borrowed the courage of Mo Yuntian's men, they would not dare to search this master and the people around him. However, Bai Yuchen and the rest were in a precarious situation, with the possibility of being exposed at any time. Now, the circle that they could move in was shrinking every moment, and everyone already had a feeling of suffocation. Chu Yang was very anxious about this, but there was nothing he could do. In such a situation, jumping out rashly to fight head-on would be an idiotic act. But if he did not jump out, he would only be waiting for death. It was only a matter of time. Damn it, damn it, damn it, how long are you going to stay silent in this space? The space of tribulation was the only thing that Chu Yang could think of to deal with the current situation, and it seemed to be the best and last way. But Chu Yang couldn't activate the tribulation space, and he felt a sense of helplessness. He was truly helpless. At least in such an urgent situation, it was difficult for him to come up with a good way to deal with the current crisis. Faced with such a dire situation, Bai Yuchen and the others, who were also aware of the situation before them, could no longer remain calm. Instead of sitting there and waiting for death, it was better to take action. If he could create a certain amount of chaos, there might be an opportunity to take advantage of. Just on this night, Mo Yuntian's army suddenly suffered casualties. Furthermore, 20 to 30 people were injured or killed at the same time. Bai Yuchen and the others couldn't take it anymore and launched an attack. Now that the situation was not in their favor, they had no choice but to activate it. Those who had not yet been branded with the divine sense were now all confined to a very narrow area. At most, after another day of selection, they would be exposed. Moreover, they would be completely exposed. The current situation was bad. Since blindly hiding would only expose them, then they might as well go all out. It was because of this mentality that they decided to make a move. Their attacks were quite effective, causing a considerable number of casualties. None of them were injured. Yet the places where the casualties occurred were immediately closely monitored by Mo Yuntian's people. Bai Yuchen and the others didn't dare to act rashly. If they acted rashly, they would automatically reveal themselves. They could only temporarily stop their ambushes. When the commander of Mo Yuntian's military, Yuqi, heard the news, he only lowered his eyes and said, "Ignore them, continue the selection." He just had to keep going on. They can do whatever they want, don't pay attention to them. Keep going until they have nowhere to hide. Mo Yuntian's experts strictly carried out Marshal Yu's orders, using inaction to deal with change. This move was, without a doubt, extremely vicious. If they really increased their defenses in those places, it meant that they would invisibly attract most of the attention. This way, there would be openings in other places that the enemy could exploit. However, if everything were to continue as usual and proceed in an orderly manner according to the established plan, then there would definitely be a harvest in the end. Only the final result. The process was not important. This move was really vicious. You have 1,000 plans, I have a set of rules. While Yu Qi had obvious flaws as a person, but when dealing with the enemy, his methods were always the most direct and effective. The most direct and effective method was usually the most correct and successful method. Chu Yang stood alone on the roof and frowned as he looked at the sky. A long time later, he still couldn't think of a countermeasure. He had originally approved of the ambush of Bai Yuchen and the others, and hoped that they could create chaos and turn this dangerous situation around. But the situation had not improved at all. In the present situation, there seemed to be only one path left, to fight head-on. But if they fought head-on, Chu Yang dared to guarantee that if Bai Yu Chen and the others were discovered, they would all be killed in less than 15 minutes. Then what should he do? What should he do to escape? This was a difficult problem that he urgently needed to solve. But there was nothing he could do. In reality, when the three great sects had arrived, Chu Yang had already detected that Lone Bamboo City had become one. But starting from that time, other than Chu Yang himself, no one else could leave the city. Once they left the city, the target would be even more obvious. Is there really no other way other than to fight? To fight to the death? Chu Yang murmured. Tan Tan and Yao Ningning, these two idiots, had gone out to roam the martial world again. It was also thanks to the two of them that the speed of this encirclement became slightly slower, because they could always suddenly appear at any time in any place, and unscrupulously pester and unreasonably bite back, causing Mo Yuntian's people to be quite apprehensive. A commotion came from afar. When Chu Yang heard it, he couldn't help but frown. If the tribulation space was still open at this time, Chu Yang could just put everyone in it and leave. But now, he couldn't. Faced with such a bad situation, even if Minister Chu was unparalleled in his wisdom, he was also helpless. And at this time, Chu Lu was also in Lone Bamboo City, undergoing the 7th inspection after entering the city. Such an inspection had already caused Chu Lu's dissatisfaction to explode. She really couldn't stand it. It was just entering a city, right? Why were there so many inspections? What exactly were they inspecting? Chu Lu frowned and said coldly, "Why do I have to undergo another inspection? I've already undergone many inspections. Can't you finish it all at once?" The officer opposite her had a rigid expression. "This is an order from the higher-ups. We have to search for suspects." Chu Lu was furious. "Is there a girl among the suspects?" The officer was stunned and subconsciously replied, "No." "Then what are you inspecting me for?" Chu Lu was furious. If not for the fact that everyone who entered the city had to undergo inspection, Lu would have suspected that the soldiers here were targeting her. "Don't let go of any suspicious points," the officer said lightly. "As long as you disguise yourself, it's not difficult to disguise yourself as a girl." Chu Lu was so angry that she laughed. "According to what you said, don't I have to strip naked for you to inspect?" To be honest, Chu Lu's body already had the divine spirit imprint of Mo Yuntian's army. It could be said that she only needed to be inspected at the first stage. The subsequent inspections were completely unnecessary and were simply a waste of time. But when these officers saw such a beautiful young lady, which one of them didn't like her from the bottom of their hearts? Although they knew that there was nothing suspicious about this young lady and that there was nothing suspicious about her at all, it was still good to be able to speak more with the beauty, right? This behavior can be seen in the traffic police inspecting cars. Yes, many cars drove past like this, but the beauty's car was stopped. "Beauty, please show me your driver's license." "Damn it. My wife has been stopped by these fellows countless times while driving. There are 5 traffic lights in a 5-kilometer road. At most, she was stopped 3 or 4 times. What a pain in the ass." It was precisely because of this mentality that caused Chu Lu to be inspected 7 times. It also made Miss Heavenly Poison so angry that she couldn't suppress her anger anymore. Hearing that she had to strip naked, the officer couldn't help but be stunned. Then he smiled lecherously. "If you don't mind, that's fine too. Only then can we solve the inspection problem once and for all." Miss Chu Lu smiled like a flower. "Sure, I don't mind. I really don't mind at all. As long as you don't mind." With that, she raised her hand. That officer was even more mesmerized when he heard that. He looked at her face in a daze and smiled lecherously. It's rare for a lady to be so straightforward. "Why would I mind?" Just as he was speaking, he suddenly fell limply to the ground. He didn't know what had happened at all. He only looked at Chu Lu with eyes full of fear. There was no longer any hint of lust in his eyes, only a great fear that came from the bottom of his heart. However, he couldn't say a word. A thick black aura flashed across his face and spread rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye. "Vice Captain Wang, what's wrong with you?" The other 2 soldiers were smiling with their arms crossed as they watched the vice captain tease the beautiful young lady. For some reason, the vice captain collapsed without any warning. The two of them couldn't help but be shocked. Damn, could it be that this beautiful young lady just smiled and the vice captain lost his virginity just like that? His body is too weak, isn't it? They hurried over to check on the situation, a wretched smile still on their faces. But just as they were 3 steps away from the vice captain, the two of them also collapsed. What's going on? One of them only had time to say the first half of the sentence. Even his tongue was stiff. I don't mind. Why would I mind? Chu-Lur had a cold smile on her face. Why would I mind if someone insisted on dying? As long as you don't mind, it's fine. If you mind, you must tell me. The soldiers nearby also saw this horrifying scene and rushed over in shock. The alarm went off everywhere. Chu-Lur frowned when she saw this, but she didn't seem to mind. The white robe on her body suddenly shook slightly, and the area around her instantly became a forbidden zone. Chapter 2133. The difference of one step may be the difference between life and death. These damned soldiers were originally here to capture my elder brother. My original intention was to sneak into the city and talk about other things after meeting my elder brother. I didn't expect to be interrogated endlessly after entering the city. I'd better kill them first. Since I've already killed the first, second and third, there's no harm in going all the way. Anyway, it's already destined not to end peacefully. Since their positions were clear, there was no need to hide anymore. Once she thought of this, Chu-Lur's eyes turned even colder. Poof, poof, poof. All the Mo Yuntian soldiers who rushed over collapsed as soon as they came into contact with the air within a radius of 100 feet. As they collapsed, the forbidden area also expanded rapidly. Chu-Lur was standing quietly in the middle of the crowd. She was dressed in a simple yet elegant snow-white robe. Her long hair fluttered in the wind, and her face still had the innocence and tenderness of a young girl. She was like the purest white lotus flower. However, the area around her had already transformed into a horrifying area of death. All the lives that came into contact with the edge of this area all collapsed. In less than the time it took to brew a cup of tea, over 100 people were already lying on the ground in disarray. The person in the center had already stopped breathing for eternity. Those who came later also had black faces and were not far from death. They could step onto the road to the yellow springs at any time. Beep, beep. Finally, someone blew the whistle before he collapsed. As the whistle sounded, a series of noisy footsteps gradually approached. It was obvious that a large group of people was rushing over. Chu-Lur's pretty face had a cold smile, and she did not move. If it was before, she might still have some reservations. However, more than 100 people had already died here, and the overflowing death aura had nourished her poison to a certain extent. Chu-Lur had obtained a large amount of capital, and she was completely confident that she could start a massacre here, or even a continuous massacre. If the death aura was a tonic to the spirit, it was the best catalyst for Lur's poison. The stronger the dead person was when they were alive, the better the catalyst. A large group of people quickly approached. Suddenly, someone shouted, "Wait! Everyone, stop in your tracks. No one is to act rashly." The person in front of him immediately stopped moving forward and appeared on the high roof. However, the people on the left and right didn't seem to have any intention of stopping. They continued to move forward without any hesitation. As a result, the group of people in the vanguard collapsed without any warning. When the people behind saw this, they cried out in alarm and retreated like lightning. There were a few unlucky ones who coincidentally bumped into their comrades who were charging forward. One was charging forward while the other was retreating. Under the collision, the retreating person was knocked back and fell into the poison's range. He fell to the ground and could not get up. Poison? What kind of poison was this? How could it be so potent? This time, Mo Yuntian had brought 50,000 plus soldiers with him. None of them were mediocre. Even if they were ordinary soldiers, they would at least be at the peak of Earth grade. Even an ordinary vice captain would have the strength of a heaven grade. Although the soldiers that had fallen earlier might not be able to enter the eyes of experts, but the moment they fell, there was no longer any reaction. Such a poison was truly frightening. Earth Realm and Heaven Realm experts couldn't resist at all. Then what about Saint Realm experts and Celestial Realm experts? Right in front of them, an old man with a pale face stood upright. It was Meng Wuya. His gaze was serious as he said softly, "The area in front has already become a poison area. Those below Celestial Realm, be careful." Everyone's expression changed. After Meng Wuya was tortured, he used his injuries as an excuse to refuse to participate in this mission. After he had recuperated for 2 days, Yu Lai finally gave the order that they had to move out. Otherwise, they would be punished for violating military orders. Only then did Meng Wuya reluctantly accept and move out a small team. However, because their commander was treated unfairly, everyone's enthusiasm wasn't high. Basically, they didn't put in any effort and would shrink back whenever they encountered something, but today, because of this reason, they were lucky not to be attacked by the poison. Under Chu Le's slightly shocked gaze, Meng Wuya floated forward and actually stopped 30 feet in front of her. He stretched out his hand and touched the face of the person on the ground slightly. Then, he retracted his hand and exclaimed, "What a sharp poison!" Alarm bells rang in Chu Le's heart. This old man was actually able to pass through the poison field and come here. Under the corrosion of the poison, he was completely fine. What is his cultivation level? With Chu Le's current cultivation in the art of poison, even a saint-level expert wouldn't be able to withstand the poison field that she set up, let alone an earth-level or heaven-level expert. Even a beginner heavenly being would be greatly affected and have to be careful at all times. However, this old man actually entered the poison field as if nothing had happened. He even dared to touch the poison person who was already dead and was safe and sound. This cultivation level was really impressive. Meng Wuya looked at Chu Le and his gaze became serious. "Young lady, whose sect are you under? Why did you attack my Celestial Realm soldiers?" Chu Le snorted and said, "Why did I attack? You should ask your subordinates." Meng Wuya frowned when he heard that. The young lady in front of him didn't show any timidity or fear when she replied. She was full of vigor and was very confident. There was a reason why she wouldn't submit to the other side. Puzzled, he looked around. However, the person who caused the trouble didn't even have a soul. It seemed like there wasn't a single living person who knew the truth. However, since things had already come to this, there had to be an explanation. He couldn't help but say lightly, "Young lady, please tell me the whole story." Chu Le said, "Old man, what's your cultivation level? You're actually not afraid of my poison at all? That's impressive." Meng Wuya's face twitched unexpectedly. "Old man, it seems like it's been many years since anyone called me that, right?" He smiled and said, "Young lady, your poison is undoubtedly very domineering. However, this poison is already useless against people above the Celestial Realm. Those at the Celestial Realm are free and will reject all evil spirits." There was pity in his eyes as he said, "Poison is ultimately not the right path." Chu Le nodded and suddenly understood. "I see. One must know that Chu Le's innate poison had always been successful. Especially after Chu Yang gave her a heaven poison jade crystal, she became even more invincible. Only now did she know that this poison actually had a limit. It was no longer effective against experts above the Celestial Realm. Chu Le firmly remembered this point. Her poison had yet to reach its peak, and there was still a lot of room for improvement. Sooner or later, even experts above the Celestial Realm would fall under her poison. "I've already answered your question. May I ask the reason for your massacre?" Meng Wuya asked. His voice wasn't very angry, it just felt a little strange. Chu Le looked abnormally obedient. Her face was pure and cute, and her eyes were clear and bright. With his tens of thousands of years of experience, Meng Wuya could tell at a glance that such a young lady would definitely not go on a killing spree for no reason. Therefore, Meng Wuya didn't immediately make things difficult for her. Instead, he gave her a reminder. For such a young lady to have such amazing poison skills, she must have an unusually strong background. There was no need to rashly make enemies that she shouldn't make. Besides, the people who died were from Yu Qi's side. Upon hearing that, Chu Le said angrily, "These bastards are despicable and shameless. Along the way, they actually checked my identity 7 or 8 times. Just now, these guys wanted to check again. This time, they actually shamelessly asked me to take off my clothes for them to check, saying that they wanted to see if I was a man dressed as a woman. This is really too much. I didn't want to kill them at first, but Meng Wuya's heart was in a mess. He knew that this bunch of bastards would run amok, but he didn't expect them to run amok to this extent. Checking one's identity only needed to be done once if they used their divine perception. This young lady had clearly left a divine perception imprint on her body as a mark. In other words, she had already accepted the check very cooperatively previously. And this bunch of bastards actually checked her so many times? They actually wanted her to take off her clothes to check if she was a man or a woman. Damn it, they were at least old foxes who had lived for hundreds of years. Can't you tell if she was a man or a woman? Was there a need to take off her clothes? The intention was self-evident. Chu was still angry. Old man, are you also one of Mo Yuntian's people? Do you want to check me too? Meng Wuya instantly felt embarrassed. He couldn't help but be speechless. After a while, he said, "Young lady, please don't misunderstand. How can I be so bored?" As he spoke, he also felt an endless headache. This time, it was obvious that his side was in the wrong again. What was going on with him this time? Why was it all such shitty and dirty things? Grand Elder Yuan Shedu had offended Chu Yang and wanted to snatch his wife. In the end, he was killed. That was why he was ordered to come out. And now, it was obvious that these bastards were killed for taking liberties with a young lady. He actually caught up with it again? Meng Wuya let out a long sigh. He suddenly felt an inexplicable sense of powerlessness. The other party was just a young lady at the peak of the heaven stage. Although she had good poison skills, she couldn't do anything to him. He could easily take her down with one move. But so what if he really took her down? If he really handed over such a bright and beautiful young lady to those people, wouldn't he be sending a lamb to the tiger's den? Wasn't he the one who had created this sin? How could he face his conscience in the future? Previously, when he arrested Chu Yang, it could be said that he couldn't disobey the emperor's orders and had no choice. But if he arrested Chu Le today, what would it mean? Those people could even make the young lady strip and check her naked when she didn't do anything. If she fell into their hands, what good things could they do? If those people were his subordinates, even if Chu Le didn't kill them, he would enforce military discipline and execute them. But the reality was that those soldiers were Yu Qi's subordinates. He couldn't do anything at all. If he didn't take her down now, how would he face Yu Qi's military orders in the future? How would he face the many dead soldiers on the ground? Chapter 2134. Chu Le had experienced a lot of worldly affairs since she was young and knew how to read people's minds. Now that she saw Meng Wuya, she knew what was going on. She sneered and said, "General, now that things have come to this, there's no point in saying anything more. You're a senior with profound cultivation, so you can capture me. Although they were the ones who molested women first, they're still on your side. You can just capture me and hand me over to them." These words seemed to be said for the sake of Meng Wuya, but in reality, they were full of ridicule and mockery. Not only was he a senior expert, but he was also taking liberties with women, and he was also on their side. Anyone could understand the meaning behind his words. Meng Wuya stroked his long beard and frowned without saying a word. His expression was heavy, and it was obvious that he couldn't make up his mind. Chu Le continued, "It's really nothing. Anyway, it's just a woman's reputation. It's really nothing in the eyes of important people like you. I've already said that I'm definitely not your match since your martial arts are so high. I can't beat you, and I can't run away either. I might as well surrender and resign myself to fate. Today, I'll just treat it as giving you a merit. As for how I'm going to be humiliated after being captured, it has nothing to do with you. As the saying goes, out of sight, out of mind. They definitely won't do anything in front of you. This way, since you didn't do it and didn't see it with your own eyes, you won't have to feel guilty. Isn't that right?" Chu Le's voice was crisp and clear, with the unique innocence of a young girl. Meng Wuya's face turned pale after hearing Le's words. He finally sighed and waved his hand. Forget it, you can leave. Chu said, "You're the one who wants me to leave, so I'm really leaving? I'm really leaving?" The generals beside him were shocked. "General, you can't." Meng Huia sighed deeply and said, "There's no need to persuade me. I've already made up my mind. As a person, there must be a bottom line." "Uncle, so you're a good person." Chu smiled. Thanks you," Meng Huia said in a low voice. "Since you have the ability to escape, you should leave immediately. The others may not be as easy to talk to as me." "Thank you for your advice." Chu agreed. Her white robes fluttered as she flew up and landed on a wall slightly further away. Then she disappeared without a trace. Those Mo Yuntian soldiers looked at each other in dismay when they saw her graceful figure disappear into the sky. There were a few people who wanted to jump up and intercept them, but they were suppressed by Meng Huia. "General Meng, what are you doing?" An officer at the checkpoint said angrily, "You connived with the fugitive and even helped him escape. Are you trying to rebel?" Meng Huia sighed softly. Just when everyone thought that he was going to explain himself, he reached out and grabbed the officer who had just spoken. The officer's head was crushed and the headless corpse fell to the ground. "Firstly, it was you who violated military discipline and molested women first. You deserve to die. If they were my subordinates, they would have already been executed and hung in public. Secondly, that little girl is not a fugitive at all. Everyone here knows that there are no women among the fugitives. Your so-called fugitive is nothing more than a pretext to accuse someone of a crime. Why worry about the pretext? Thirdly, even if I am wrong, it is not up to you to say. Who do you think you are? You were rude to me and spoke rudely. That is an offense against your superior. You deserve to die." Meng Huia looked at the headless corpse at his feet and said gently, "Do you understand? The person is already dead. What else is there to understand? Is there any meaning?" When the other officers saw this, their faces turned pale with fright. How could they dare to say another word? They were all speechless. Chu left the scene of the incident, but she did not escape far away from the city like Meng Huia had expected. Instead, she went deeper into the city. Her figure was like the wind as she flew across the sky, carefully searching for Chu Yang's information. However, after more than an hour, there was still nothing. At this moment, the city was already in chaos. Shouts of, "Catch the female cat burglar," could be heard everywhere. Obviously, although Meng Huia had let her go, the others would not be willing to just let her go. Presumably, there was another powerful person who disobeyed Meng Huia's order and started to search for her. In order to justify it, they actually gave Chu the title of female cat burglar. Sure enough, if you want to pin a crime on someone, you can always find a pretext. Sure enough, without a pretext, there was no need for it. Chu heard the shouts coming from all directions. She could not help but be angry. She was really angry. Just as she was about to use her life source poison to massacre again, her eyes suddenly lit up. She found someone familiar. She could not help but be overjoyed. She flew over and shouted, "Big Brother Tan!" These two idiots, Tan Tan and Yao Ningning, had been unscrupulously roaming all the way. Under the leadership of Tan Tan, Yao Ningning had begun to roam the Jianghu in the lone bamboo city. He had taken the world as his home. He had traveled 1,000 miles with his sword. He had done so in high spirits. He had looked around with awe-inspiring might. Now, Tan Tan was mainly leading Master Meng in his robbery business. And it was an army that specialized in robbing Mo Yuntian. Tan Tan's reason was very simple. You are the demon emperor Tian Tai. Can you rob your own people in your own family's land? If you rob your own people, wouldn't your people's things be your things? That's basically robbing yourself. Yourself. Master Meng deeply agreed. And in Lone Bamboo City, the most representative outsider was undoubtedly Mo Yuntian's army. So, as long as these two saw a general's insignia on their shoulders, they would go up and rob. In the beginning, it was Tan Tan who was in charge of taking the lead. Later, Master Meng's hands were itchy and he was eager to try. He simply took the lead and brazenly attacked before Tan Tan. "Stop! This is a robbery!" Under the watchful eyes of everyone, these two idiotic youths stopped the regular army from robbing. A certain duo faced a group of dozens or even hundreds of people with strict military discipline. They opened their hands and asked for passage money. This scene made everyone who could see by the roadside dumbfounded. They were dumbfounded and did not know what was going on. Speaking of robbers, everyone had seen it before. But to be so brazen and arrogant, robbing a regular army in the city, this was the first time they had seen it. A total of 2 people dared to block the road and rob like this. This was too outrageous. How brainless were they? However, the subsequent development made everyone's eyeballs drop to the ground. As long as they saw the 2 robbers, the first reaction of the leading officer was not to resist. Instead, they all looked up to the sky and sighed. Their shoulders drooped as if they were mourning for their parents. They obediently took out their storage rings and handed them over to the 2 robbers. Fuck, what the fuck is this situation? Is this a joke? Is this a joke? Some people who did not know the truth stared their eyes out of their sockets. Could it be that this group of soldiers is actually fake goods? They were caught red-handed. That's why they are like this. Or that officer is just a coward. The moment he saw someone robbing him, he immediately shrugged. Looking at the 2 robbers swaggering and sarcastically taking away all the valuables, most of the soldiers did not resist at all. They were like puppets. Immediately, some of the thick-skinned Jianghu people became excited as if they had seen a huge business opportunity. Those 2 bastards only robbed the officials. They actually did not rob the soldiers. One must know that most of the soldiers in front of them also have storage rings. What a rich group. Isn't this a great opportunity to make a fortune? Therefore, those brainless people also jumped out and blocked Mo Yuntian's regular army. They shouted, "Stop! This is a robbery!" This time, they were really unlucky. There was really no cure for brainless people. To have a storage ring, one had to at least be at the level of heaven grade. If even the soldiers here had storage rings, then how strong was this army's overall strength? Along the way, Tan Tan and Yao Ningning were really high-spirited and complacent. They destroyed whatever they wanted. They destroyed whatever they wanted. They were so unscrupulous and ran amok. Yao Ningning was very satisfied with the current situation. She felt that wandering the Jianghu was really too colorful. It was really too rich. If I knew it was so fun, I would have fucking wandered the Jianghu hundreds of thousands of years ago. I'm really late. This is the Jianghu. There are purple crystals everywhere in the Jianghu. There are beauties everywhere in the Jianghu. There are treasures everywhere in the Jianghu. There are fortuitous encounters everywhere in the Jianghu. There are only things you can't imagine. There is absolutely nothing you can't meet. Under the guidance of a certain heartless big brother, he pulled his little brother into the bottomless abyss of robbery. He quickly fell into depravity. A certain little brother's eyes lit up. He nodded repeatedly like a chick pecking rice. He moved forward without looking back. Big brother, there are purple crystals everywhere. I've already seen treasures everywhere today. But where are the beauties everywhere? Why don't I see them? A certain little brother asked eagerly. Tan Tan's eyes narrowed. He scolded loudly, "Bastard! You have to think twice. Not having them now doesn't mean that they won't have them in the future. How many steps have you taken? How much experience do you have? Don't worry. There are plenty of beauties. Just one of them would dazzle you. I won't tell you. The Jianghu is big. There are all kinds of strange things. There are only things you can't imagine. There is absolutely nothing you can't meet." Yao Ningning repeatedly agreed. He nodded repeatedly. Tan Tan's words might be more useful than his mother's words to him now. At this moment, they heard a sweet and clear voice. It was mixed with infinite surprise as it called out, "Big Brother Tan." The 2 of them were stunned together. In an instant, the 2 of them had a little knot in their heads. Damn, we were just talking about beauties, and beauties came? A certain great master prostrated himself in admiration. The Jianghu is really great. Following Big Brother Tan is really promising. Sure enough, there are only things you can't imagine. There is absolutely nothing you can't meet. Sure enough. Big Brother Tan is really right. As long as one of them appears, it would dazzle me. But now, this one has appeared. It's more than just dazzling me. I've only seen such beauties a few times in my life. Yao Ningning was on the verge of collapse. He almost cried tears of joy. The magical Jianghu. Chapter 2135. As Yao Ningning raised her head in anticipation, an elegant white cloud descended from the sky. It was a white-clothed girl who was so beautiful that she didn't seem to belong to the human world. Her features were picturesque, and her beauty was indescribable. She was extremely beautiful, and her figure was tall and curvaceous. She was flying over excitedly. Tan, Big Brother Tan, why are you here? Yao Ningning's eyes widened. In an instant, she changed from an elegant and dignified man to a standard pig. Beautiful. Too beautiful. She was really too beautiful. Did she know what a beauty was today? Tan was also stunned. Sister Le, why are you here? Why did you suddenly come to this place? Chu Le landed on the ground. She was so excited that her face was a little red. She met an old friend in a foreign land, and he was even her brother's best brother. Chu Le felt as if a stone had been lifted from her heart. She immediately thought of her own situation. Big Brother Tan, let's go quickly. Someone is chasing after me from there. They want to catch me. Who dares to catch you? Tan was instantly enraged. He rubbed his fists as if he wanted to eat someone. Who dares to catch my sister? How bold of him. Who is it? Tan's uncoordinated face actually became somewhat coordinated due to his excessive anger. A certain man finally had a chance to show off. He puffed out his chest proudly. Sister, don't worry. You're Big Brother Tan's sister, so you're my sister. My biological sister. With me here, whoever dares to touch a strand of your hair, I'll make sure that they won't be able to bear the consequences. Their whole family won't be able to bear the consequences. Before she could finish her sentence, she heard someone shout, "Lowly servant. Where are you going? Why aren't you leaving? Give me your life." Yao Ningning's face instantly turned into the color of pig liver. Damn it, I just said that no one dares to touch her, and someone actually wants her to leave her life behind? Isn't this humiliating me in front of everyone? I'm too fucking embarrassed. Which bastard dares to catch my sister? Come out. The old man was furious. He roared, and his eyes were about to crack. A voice came from afar, so we found the main character. This lowly servant actually has an older brother. That's perfect. Let's capture them together and kill them together. Another voice said, it's a pity to kill the woman. Why don't we? Another voice also said, since he's that girl's brother, his appearance is probably not bad. Why don't? Before he could finish speaking, swish, 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 dozens of figures chased from the south and landed on the ground. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. People rushed over from all directions. The three of them were trapped in the middle. Then, the hundreds of people were dumbfounded. In the middle of the room, that unruly demon clan Grand Elder was looking at them as if he wanted to eat them alive. The muscles on his face were twitching. The white-clothed girl was hiding behind the Grand Elder. In an instant, all of them fainted and almost fainted. What was going on? What's going on? Who can tell me what's going on? Yao Ningning walked out with a majestic gait, his voice like thunder. Why are you chasing her? Everyone looked at each other. What should they say? On the other side, the one who came the latest was the one who participated in the encirclement of Chu Le. At this moment, he said loudly, Your Highness Grand Elder Yao, this girl is a thief. This sentence made the first person who came from the south want to pour a basin of feces on his head. Fuck you. Just now, Grand Elder clearly said that she was his younger sister. Now, you're actually saying that she's a thief. If you don't want to live anymore, hurry up and find a good place to commit suicide. Why do you have to drag all of us down with you? Thief. Yao Ningning looked at Chu. He actually didn't doubt the authenticity of this accusation at all. In fact, he even felt that it was natural. He couldn't help but feel excited. Wow, such a beautiful thief. The martial world, the martial world, the martial world, is indeed full of wonders. Yes, this is a female thief. At this moment, the officer still didn't know that the star of misfortune had illuminated his life and that death was imminent. He continued to curse incessantly. This lowly servant girl was committing murder over there just now. We were just about to take her down, but she poisoned many of us and escaped. Now that we've finally surrounded her, please uphold justice for us, Your Highness. Uphold justice? Uphold justice for all of you. Yao Ningning's expression was a little strange. Yes. The Mo Yuntian officer's expression was extremely sorrowful. So many of his brothers had died, and a few of them were his best friends, his life and death brothers. At this moment, his heart was filled with hatred, and it wasn't fake at all. If it wasn't for this, he wouldn't have said whatever was on his mind so recklessly. Let me confirm it again. You're saying that she's a female thief? A female thief who committed a crime in front of all of you? Yao Ningning pointed at Chulu. Yes. The officer still didn't understand and insisted. It seemed that the desire for revenge had already overtaken all of his rationality. Yes, there's really a lot of jokes today. There's even someone who can treat a joke like it's real. It's really realistic. If you were to perform in an opera, just based on your acting skills, I'll definitely support you. My younger sister is actually a female thief? Yao Ningning smiled faintly. You still want me to uphold justice for you? Chapter 2136. Yao Ningning cursed loudly. Mo Yuntian's people stood there dumbstruck, their hearts screaming. This is bad, this is bad. What should they do now? Resist? They couldn't resist. They didn't have any reason at all. If they resisted, the consequences would be even worse. Other than not being able to resist, they didn't dare to resist either. It seemed like there was only Yao Ningning and another idiot in front of them. There might be many super experts of Yao Emperor Sky hiding around them as guards. If they dared to make a move, it would be death. Since they didn't resist, they could only wait to be captured. The news quickly spread out and instantly, everyone was moved. Uncle Hu and Uncle Ma were the first to arrive. Then, the bugle horn sounded in the entire Lone Bamboo City. Yao Emperor Sky's army immediately moved out and moved towards them. The 1,350 people present, without exception, were all tied up and pressed to the ground. Everyone's face was extremely speechless. This unexpected disaster was really self-inflicted. Over 100 people had died before, and now another 1,000 people had been sent up to be tied up. It seemed like the right to speak was still in the other party's hands. Who knew what would happen in the future? They were going to die. If it was just to die, it seemed like it was still light. Yuqi was currently raging at Meng Wuya. Tell me, why did you let that witch go? You even stopped the others and purposely let that witch go. Meng Wuya, are you rebelling? Tell me clearly. Say something. Just as he was scolding, an officer suddenly scrambled in to report. Marshal Yu, it's not good. Many of our people have been detained by Yao Emperor Sky's people. What happened? Yu Qi was furious. What happened? Why did Yao Emperor Sky detain our people? How did we offend them? That officer stammered. Why? Yes, that's what happened, but no one knew and no one expected. That girl was actually the princess of the Yao race. You mean, the witch that Meng Wuya let go was actually the princess of the Yao race? Yu Qi was shocked. Yes, that's right. The officer wiped his cold sweat. At this moment, he was looking at Meng Wuya, who was being scolded with boundless gratitude. In his heart, he thought, it's all thanks to great General Meng's kindness. Otherwise, that little princess of the monster race would really have been stripped naked and checked, and even. Then of the 50,000 people that had come to Yao Emperor Heaven, including Marshal Yu, probably would not be able to return. In fact, they might even find out where the heavenly emperor of the Moyen Heaven, Yuan Tianji, went. This time, Yu Lai turned his head and looked at Meng Wuya awkwardly. He grinned and coughed twice. Unexpectedly, he couldn't say anything. It was too awkward. Just a moment ago, he was still scolding Meng Wuya. Could it be that he was now praising him for doing the right thing? It was really hard to get off the stage. Meng Wuya felt relieved and said, "Vice Marshal Yu, if there is nothing else, I will go and rest." You can go." Yu Lai's face was dark. He hesitated for a moment and then waved his hand. He originally wanted to let Meng Wuya go. No matter what, there would still be some face. After all, he was the one who had let the Yao princess go. But after thinking about it, he wasn't willing to lower his head to Meng Wuya. He could only let it go. Meng Wuya left in a relaxed manner. He was also slightly puzzled. That little girl was the Yao princess? Was it true? "Marshal Yu, what should we do about this matter now? I'm afraid that they will not let this go so easily." A vice general beside him asked nervously. "What else can we do?" Yu Lai's anger finally exploded. Those bastards can't move when they see a beautiful girl. They should have had this retribution long ago. A group of bastards, can't they tell the difference between a girl and a boy? You actually want the little princess to strip naked and check? Check what? A group of bastards. Why did old general bring soldiers like you? But those people, we still have to go and fish them out? The deputy general lowered his head as if he was in the wrong. Those people were all his soldiers. Bah, rescued what? Do you want me, this old bag of bones, to stretch out my face and let them beat me? You bastard, you have the nerve to say this, old general doesn't have such thick skin. Yu Lai said angrily, those bastards that corrupted military discipline died cleanly. Even if Yao Emperor Heaven did not kill them, old general will punish them and enforce military discipline. Everyone was silent and didn't dare to say anything else. But words were words, Yu Lai still had to go. Amidst the silent sighs along the way, Marshal Yu finally arrived. He also knew that unless he went personally, if it was someone else, not only would they not be able to get it out, there was also a high chance that they would be implicated. Even if he went personally, it might not be a good scene to watch. When he arrived, he learned that the people on the other side had been taken to the yamen of Lone Bamboo City. So Marshal Yu headed to the office of the city master. When he came to the square, he looked over and couldn't help but be shocked. He saw more than 1,300 of his subordinates were tied up and thrown into a pile. Each person had a shining steel blade next to them. In the middle of the square, there was a pile of blue flames. This seemed to be the soul-devouring flame. Behind the flames, there was an old person dressed in blue robes. He stood with his hands behind his back, his expression cold and stern. Yu Lai's heart jumped. It seemed that the other was planning to kill all those people and then burn their souls. Was he trying to completely annihilate her divine body? Was it so serious? On the high platform, Yao Emperor Heaven Supreme Yao Ningning stood with his hands behind his back, his expression icy. The presence of the Yao Emperor and Sky Crown Prince was completely displayed at this moment. He clearly looked vicious and merciless, ready to kill at any moment. Yu Lai sighed and flew up. Behind him, Mo Yuntian's group of generals also followed. Your Highness, Grand Highness, this matter? Yu Lai did his best to put on a friendly smile. This matter? What matter? Yao Ningning rudely interrupted him. What are you laughing at? This matter is very funny, right? You bastards of Mo Yuntian all think this matter is very funny and can be resolved with a laugh. Yu Lai's face froze. Yu Lai was also a person of great status. He had never been so mercilessly reprimanded in public before. He was really speechless. General Yu, since you're here, please tell me, what does your Mo Yuntian military take our demon emperor heaven for? Yao Ningning flew into a rage. Don't think that because my mother allowed you to stay in demon emperor heaven, you're superior to others. Do you understand? If we don't want to give you face, you're nothing. This is demon emperor heaven, not your Mo Yuntian. I gave you some face earlier, and you actually opened a dye house. I gave you some face, and you actually dared to take advantage of it? Yao Ningning sneered. You're really naive and childish, Mo Yuntian. Yu Lai's face was a little pale. If not for Mo Yuntian, Yuan Tianji, begging my mother for help back then, do you think that you can enter my demon emperor heaven with just these shrimp soldiers and crab generals? Yao Ningning was clearly using this as a pretext to make a fuss. Since Yu Lai's arrival, he hadn't even finished his sentence before he was sprayed with spittle all over his face. His face had already turned purplish-black, from white to green, from green to purple. The layers of changes were distinct. He was extremely sullen in his heart, and the veins on his temples were popping, but he couldn't say a single word. Molesting the demon princess, bullying the people under Demon Emperor Heaven's rule, disturbing the normal order of Demon Emperor Heaven. Yao Ningning's gaze was like a knife as he looked at Yu Lai. Vice General Yu, regarding this matter, you must give me an explanation. Yu Lai forcefully suppressed the anger in his heart and said, "May I ask your highness, what explanation do you want?" Yao Ningning sneered. "What explanation? It's very simple. Just follow your Mo Yuntian's example. Didn't your Mo Yuntian's crown prince die before? Wasn't it because of his death that you all mustered such a large force? I heard that the cause of death was that he robbed a woman to satisfy his lust and was killed by the woman's husband. Is that what happened? Our Demon Emperor Heaven only has this one princess. She was bullied and defiled by you all. Tell me, what explanation do you want? Our only princess is much more honorable than your crown prince." Yao Ningning glanced sideways. "Yu Lai, tell me, what should we do about this matter?" Yu Lai gritted his teeth and said, "This matter is indeed our people who are in the wrong. Please give your instructions. No matter what the conditions are, I will accept them all." Yao Ningning said, "Good courage. Just because of your courage, I will give you face and not pursue your mistake of not managing the army strictly. As long as you personally take action, enforce military discipline, and kill all these people, their souls will be destroyed, and they will not be reincarnated. This will be a warning. In this case, I, Wang Han, will not pursue anything else." Yu Lai's face turned pale. "Your Highness, there doesn't seem to be a need to be so harsh, right?" The others, especially those who were tied up now, felt as if they were struck by lightning. Kill them all, destroy their souls, and Yu Lai had to do it personally. Wasn't this condition a little too much? After all, these people didn't really do anything. Yu Lai said with difficulty, "Your little princess is unscathed. This is a little too much, isn't it?" Yao Ningning laughed sinisterly. "The little princess is unscathed? What a strong reason. I really wonder how you thought about it. How could you say such words? If my sister was really slightly injured, do you think that the current you can still stand in front of me so safely?" Yu Lai's face darkened. These words were crude but reasonable. If the little princess had really been stripped naked and examined, and everything that should have happened had happened, even if it was him, it would definitely be difficult for him to escape death. He didn't even need to do that. Even if it was a little bump or a little injury, there was no possibility of this matter being resolved. Crown Prince, even if you don't look at the monk's face, look at the Buddha's face. You should be lenient. Uncle Hu moved closer to Yao Ningning and seemed to be comforting him in a low voice. In fact, his heart was full of doubts. When did our demon race have a little princess? Crown Prince obviously doesn't have a sister. Chapter 2137. Uncle Hu was the Demon Empress confidant. Whether the Demon Empress had another daughter, he was very clear about it. The other higher-ups of the demon race were also full of doubts. However, at such a delicate moment, who would dare to ask so rashly? Besides, even if that girl wasn't the little princess, what if she was the Grand Prince's sweetheart? In other words, it was very likely that she was the future Grand Princess, another Demon Empress of the future Demon Emperor Heaven. Lenient? Based on what? What bullshit Buddha's face? Who the hell has Buddha's face? Yao Ningning glared, murderous. Could it be that my sister was bullied for nothing? No matter what you say. Uncle Ma also came over to mediate. These two experienced people could see that the Grand Prince didn't really want to kill. If he wanted to kill, he would have done it long ago. This wasn't enough. He just wanted to use it as a pretext to make a fuss. But this time, using it as a pretext to make a fuss seemed a little inexplicable. Who knew what the Grand Prince wanted to do? Could he get any benefits? What good things could a group of soldiers have? Not to mention in Yao Ningning's eyes, even in the eyes of these two, including Yuqi, there was nothing worth coveting. I say, little sister, where are your guards? Tan Tan frowned and looked at Chu Lu. Why didn't you bring that guard when you came out? Isn't it because you were too careless? It has nothing to do with others. When this sentence came out, Yuqi looked at Tan Tan with an extremely affectionate gaze. He was really her savior. That's right, that's right. The little princess didn't bring any guards with her. It will inevitably cause misunderstandings. Yuqi really wanted to cry when she said this. Even the princess of Moyun Sky has to be respectful when facing her. But now that she was in the Demon Emperor heaven, she actually had to be respectful to these two little radishes. This was really the first time in her life. Yao Ningning rolled her eyes and said, Brother Tan, what you said is wrong. So what if she didn't bring any guards? Could it be that all the young girls who don't bring guards should be humiliated? Or is it that their Moyun Sky military has this practice? Is this what they do in Moyun Sky? Is that why we're doing the same here? Yuqi's face immediately turned black. My God, why does this Grand Highness dare to say anything? Our Moyun Sky army's reputation is completely ruined. Tan Tan laughed and said, Forget it. Isn't it just a misunderstanding? What shouldn't have happened has already happened, right? Moreover, little sister didn't bring any bodyguards with her. She didn't reveal her identity when she was interrogated. Instead, she cooperated with the investigation 7 or 8 times. So, it's indeed her fault. But it's not only for this matter, but also for the sake of her safety. This incident is a warning. The two idiots, one playing the good cop and the other playing the bad cop, were a perfect match. Yuqi's face alternated between green and red, black and white. It was a perfect performance of the Sichuan opera's face-changing technique. Although Chu Lu, who had already received Tan Tan's advice, didn't understand what was going on, she still nodded her head cooperatively. Then, she said with an angry look on her face, My guards! Don't mention those guys. They were so annoying when they followed me. There were so many people looking at me. I didn't allow them to do this or that. How good would it be to be alone and free? Would there be any danger in my own territory? Who knew that I would encounter such an incident? Is it wrong for me to cooperate with the investigation? Am I not close to the people? Is this still my fault? When all the Moyun Sky Army officers heard this, they all clicked their tongues. Sure enough, it was another super non-mainstream person. She definitely had the temper of a big missy. She actually drove all her bodyguards away when she was outside. It's true that you are close to the people, but your degree of closeness to the people is a little too close. You didn't get angry even after 7 or 8 investigations. What a good temper. Then, when you got angry, you killed hundreds of people. As expected of a member of the imperial family. Sigh, those people in the same line were really too much. If they followed her, would we have offended this great aunt? Would we dare to offend her? Oh my God, where did you drive them? Tan Tan had an anxious look on his face. I told them that I was coming to Lone Bamboo City. Why haven't they arrived yet? How bold. Chu said with dissatisfaction according to the lines Tan Tan taught her. Those guys are so slow. They really deserve to be spanked. I'm so angry. Tan Tan and Yao Ningning looked at each other. Yao Ningning immediately flew into a rage. Men, find them for me. I want to punish them for their negligence. They caused Her Highness to be in danger. Their crimes are unforgivable. Under everyone's persuasion, Yao Ningning was finally magnanimous and reluctantly spared those people. As for the hundreds of people who had died earlier, Moyun Sky's people naturally wouldn't care about them. You actually made a little princess of the world strip naked for you to check. You deserve to die. You deserve to be exterminated. Even if they didn't die now, we will beat you to death. You almost caused us to die together. At this point, Yuqi finally felt a little relieved. He shouted, Capture all these bastards and bring them back. He secretly made up his mind. When he returned, he definitely wouldn't be soft-hearted and protect his children. He must punish them severely. This time, he had lost a lot of face. He, who was hundreds of thousands of years old, was humiliated by a young man pointing at his nose like he was scolding his own grandson. If he didn't vent this anger, it would be intolerable. But how could he vent this anger? There didn't seem to be any place to vent it. Therefore, Yuchi gave an order, "When we return, beat those bastards up. No matter how many of them there are, beat them until they are half dead. Leaving them with a breath is letting them off too easily. Their lives are saved, aren't they? Teach them a lesson." "Master, this is Uncle who was pinched by Uncle Ma," he helplessly asked with a bitter face. To be honest, it wasn't a big deal to add a younger sister to the family. But if it was a biological younger sister, then it would be a big deal. If there were really any rumors in the martial world, then it would be really bad. Even just thinking about it would give one a headache. The mouths of the people of Jianghu could definitely infuriate a person to death, and then revive the person who died of anger. The demon empress is pregnant. Who did it? What? The demon empress gave birth to another daughter, don't you know? You're too ignorant. This true? Fuck. How can this be fake? Have you heard of Moyun Sky's late rain? What? Late rain? I didn't hear that this fellow was so brilliant to be able to get close to the demon empress. Could he be a gigolo with outstanding looks or has some special skills? Does the demon empress like this type? Damn, this is too unexpected. I don't believe that I am not as good as him. I have my own special skills. Bullshit. What do you know? You only know how to think about those ridiculous things. If you continue to talk nonsense, I will make you lose your special skills. You can't joke about this. I won't talk about it, okay? I asked you to tell me what is going on. I guess a playful fool like you wouldn't know. Come, sit down and listen to me tell you in detail, like this. The two saint-level experts looked at Yao Ningning with resentment. It doesn't matter if you want to help him, but didn't you think about the consequences before you spoke? This is related to your mother's reputation. What we thought of just now wasn't too out of line. We don't know how those truly ridiculous people will interpret it. Just like that, with a flick of his lips, he suddenly came up with a younger sister, a princess of the demon race, without any warning. Moreover, he kept calling her his own little sister. This is really my younger sister. Yao Ningning's neck stiffened. This is none of your business. Go and do what you are supposed to do. Disperse. He was really arrogant and domineering. He actually drove everyone out in such a forceful and unreasonable manner. Then he pulled Tan Tan and Chulu to a restaurant. Now, how could the owner of the restaurant not know that this was the Lord Great Master who was visiting incognito? When he saw this person come up, he almost fainted in surprise and joy. Since he didn't faint, he naturally had to serve him meticulously. The owner, who was originally a famous chef but had not cooked for many years, was inexplicably excited. He actually rushed into the kitchen and chased the head chef out. He picked up the kitchen knife again, wanting to personally cook a few dishes for the Lord Great Master. Miss? Ha! A certain Lord Great Master rubbed his hands and looked at Chu Lu. There was no longer any trace of his previous mighty and domineering aura. Chu Lu looked at the Lord Great Master who seemed to be cramping a little. Her bright eyes were full of confusion. What is this guy doing? Could it be that he was thinking about something bad? May I know your name, miss? My name is Yao Ningning. The Lord Great Master had a fawning look on his face. Can we be friends? Uncle Hu and Uncle Ma, who were watching them with their divine senses, spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. Damn it. You're really something. He really is a genuine and honest super idiot. Even now, you still don't know her name. You actually recognized her as your biological sister and voluntarily took on her big trouble. Before Chu Lu could reply, Tan Tan had already become vigilant. He said slowly, "Little Yao, do you know who my sister is?" Yao Ningning's face instantly became respectful. She asked respectfully, "Who is it?" Tan Tan said, "This is my senior martial brother's sister. Can you afford to offend my senior martial brother?" Yao Ningning shook her head violently. "I can't afford to offend him. I definitely can't afford to offend him." Thinking of Chu Yang's peerless magnificence with only one sword, Yao Ningning shuddered again. Chapter 2138. Tan Tan said earnestly, even my senior brother doesn't dare to easily offend that brother big brother. That person has the sun, moon, and stars in his palm, and the secrets of the universe hidden in his heart. He has the ability to overturn everything. Can you afford to offend such a person? Even Big Brother Chu doesn't dare to offend such a great person. So, I naturally can't afford to offend him. Yao Ningning shook his head repeatedly. So you're still young. You should concentrate on chasing after that sweetheart of yours. Don't show off in front of my younger sister in the future. Younger sister is out of your league. Let's not talk about you being young. Even I wouldn't be qualified to call her younger sister if it weren't for my relationship with my senior brother. You should be content to call her younger sister with your relationship with me. People should know how to be content. Tan Tan blocked Yao Ningning's thoughts with just a few words. The two old men were still observing the situation. But they couldn't help but become angry when they heard Tan Tan's words. So, they became bold. What kind of people are you? Our Grand Prince has helped you solve a big problem. And he's treating you with sincerity. So, it's your fortune to have taken a fancy to that woman. But, you don't appreciate his kindness. But, you still dare to step on our Grand Prince like this? Do you still have any sense of justice? The two old men bristled with anger for a while. Then, they heard a certain Grand Prince say, "When did I let my imagination run wild?" Yao Ningning explained with a red face, "I really didn't. I just admired her a little. Everyone has the heart to love beauty. Look, you're speaking with such a guilty conscience." Tan Tan looked at him with disdain. "You were telling me how devoted you were to your sweetheart earlier. You were unswervingly devoted to her. But I've finally seen your true face now. Let me tell you, don't think that you're so great just because you're a Grand Prince. I'm not scaring you. I'm warning you. I'm reminding you. There are some people in this world that you can't afford to offend. Once you do, the entire world will be destroyed. As the saying goes, there's always someone better than you." Tan Tan said disdainfully, "Look at Imoyunta now. Wasn't it because they had provoked someone they shouldn't have provoked, which led to their current situation? Don't look at how awe-inspiring Imoyuntian is right now. Let me tell you, if this heavens isn't destroyed by us, that would be a strange thing." Yao Ningning was a little surprised and said, "Brother Tan, aren't your words a little too big? No matter what, it's still a world of its own. It can't be that easy, right?" Tan Tan proudly smiled. "Do you know that there are some people in this world? The greater the pressure they face, the greater the rebound they can cause. In the end, this mountain-like pressure will bring them success. For example, me and my brothers. I don't know about the others, but look at Sister Lu. What's her cultivation level now?" Yao Ningning sized Chu Lu up carefully and said, "Beginner saint level. This doesn't seem to be a big deal. Although he is already an expert, but if he wants to destroy Mo Yuntian, his cultivation is far from enough." The two elders also secretly thought that she was only at the early stage of the saint level, yet she had the nerve to show off. With this little bit of cultivation, any Imperial Guard could easily take her down. "And that girl's bone age seemed to be very young," Kentan sneered and said, "Is it not a big deal? Do you know that Sister Le is only 10 years old this year?" "So what if she's 10 years old? 10 years old." Yao Ningning didn't think much of it when he heard it, but once he reacted, his eyes bulged, and the wine that he had just drunk flowed down from his mouth unconsciously. How could she be only 10 years old? Martial Saint level cultivation level, 10 years old? Yao Ningning suddenly felt a little dizzy. Not only him, the two elders also felt a little dizzy. Oh my God, she's only 10 years old, and this cultivation level seems to be a little ridiculous. Even in the entire heaven, it's hard to find a cultivation genius. Compared to the two of them back then, she's a million times stronger. You're surprised? Do you know that she just ascended to the heaven for a little more than half a year? Tan Tan continued, "Do you know that when she just ascended, she was far from Earth level? 10 years old? Ascended for half a year. Not Earth level." Yao Ningning felt that he was about to go crazy. Not only Yao Ningning went crazy, even Uncle Hu and Uncle Ma, who had been listening to the conversation here, went crazy. A 10-year-old martial saint-level genius. And it's only been half a year since she ascended. Not Earth level, all the way to beginner martial saint level. She crossed Earth level, beginner Earth level, high level, peak level, beginner heaven level, intermediate level, high level, peak level, martial saint level, beginner martial saint level. It's only been half a year. What kind of monster was this? Even if she had great opportunities and many heavenly treasures to help her, but her body must be able to bear it. How did she do it? This kind of achievement was really shocking and unbelievable. Just now, they were comparing the two of them, but now that they thought about it, what could they use to compare with this little girl? The difference was too great, like the difference between heaven and earth. When they heard that Chu Lu was Chu Yang's sister, and Chu Yang was the person who killed Yuan Shitu, the two martial saints were already very shocked. Now that they heard such news again, they were even more shocked. It was simply unbelievable. I ascended with Lu. At that time, my cultivation was about the same as hers. Now, I'm at martial saint level. And I'm very close to the high level. I'll break through in a few days, Tan Tan said proudly. Since coming here, Tan Tan had collected more than 10,000 inner cores under various robberies with Yao Ningning. In these few days he had absorbed less than 1/50th of this batch of inner cores. His cultivation had advanced by leaps and bounds again. If he absorbed all of them, Tan Tan estimated that he could almost reach celestial level, or even high level. It was absolutely not a fantasy. Yao Ningning stared and opened his mouth. He was really speechless. The two old men who were hiding in the dark were not much better. They also stared and opened their mouths. They were speechless for a long time. It's hard to say for others. I don't know either. But I know my own situation. After I heard about my senior brother, I suddenly felt a sudden increase in pressure. It was so heavy that it felt like it was going to crush me to death. I can only improve without any regard for my life. In the shortest amount of time, I have to cross levels and raise my strength. Only then will I have a chance and a future. Tan Tan asked, "What about you, Lu?" Chu Lu smiled. I was able to reach this level because of other opportunities. However, after I heard that Big Brother was being hunted down, I suddenly had the thought of risking my life. I digested about half of the benefits I got from that encounter. During that process, I was unconscious for 3 days and 3 nights. I almost lost my life. When I woke up, my cultivation had increased to the current level. Chu Lu said it casually, but all the people who heard her were highly skilled cultivators. How could they not understand the danger of such a thing? Uncle Hu and Uncle Ma couldn't help but sigh deeply when they heard that. Risking one's life. Everyone would fight, but even if they were risking their lives, it also depended on the will of the person involved. Some people risked their lives, and some people risked their lives to gain benefits. There was also the problem of mentality, perseverance, willpower, mental strength, physical condition, and the right time and place. Not a single one could be missing. The lack of any one of these could completely change the outcome. Obviously, these two people were gambling with fate. Fortunately, they won the gamble. But speaking of the real shock and the real surprise, there's still another person. That person is my senior brother. Tan Tan's face revealed a warm expression. My senior brother's cultivation was roughly on par with mine when he ascended. Maybe it was slightly higher than mine, but at most, it was only at the peak of the human level. But it was also in this half a year that it soared rapidly. Now, he's already at the beginner level of the celestial level. Moreover, he's close to the great circle of the beginner level. He can make another breakthrough at any time. A considerable part of all of this is caused by the huge pressure given by Heavenly Emperor Mo Yun, Yuan Tianji. Tan Tan smiled faintly. If Yuan Tianji continues to suppress him like this, I believe he'll soon realize that he's finished. There were a total of 12 of us who ascended together at that time. Tan Tan's face revealed a proud expression. The same thoughts, the same cultivation, the same pressure, the same feelings. I believe that their cultivation is also advancing by leaps and bounds now. Especially after hearing about the matter of Big Brother being hunted down. They're also not inferior to the shock and surprise that Lu'er and I felt. Yao Ningning was silent when he heard this. Although he was a demon race Grand Elder, he didn't have much experience. In fact, he was just a small shrimp in the Jianghu. Now that he heard Tan Tan's words, he was shocked and amazed. However, he only felt that their cultivation was progressing too quickly. He didn't have any other special feelings. However, in the ears of Uncle Hu and Uncle Ma, these words were as shocking as a sudden clap of thunder. The cultivation of Chu Yang and the others, including Chu Yang whose cultivation had reached the celestial level, was still not very high in their eyes. Among the 12 people, Chu Yang's cultivation was the highest, but he was only at the beginner level of the celestial level. It seemed that there was nothing remarkable about it. Even if the 12 of them were all at the beginner level of the celestial level, so what? Mo Yun Tian only needed to send out a saint-level expert, and he could easily wipe them all out. But the real problem now was the cultivation speed of this group of people. In just half a year, the 3 of them had cultivated to the beginner level of the celestial level, the middle level of the saint level, and the last one was at the beginner level of the saint level. It was only half a year's time. Since ancient times, there were only a few people who could achieve such a cultivation speed in the Heaven Imperial Court. And these guys were all such perverts. Birds of a feather flock together. One is marked by the company one keeps. In that case, the other individuals might also be such super geniuses. Then, this time, Yuan Tianji had poked a big hornet's nest. Chapter 2139. From the bottom of their hearts, the 2 elders really didn't want to believe it. This was already an unbelievable thing. The 3 in front of them were already rare and commendable, but there were actually so many of them. It was really unbelievable. But if that was really the case, then as Tan Tan said, the heavenly emperor of Ink Cloud, Yuan Tianji, would really be in trouble this time. If such geniuses really grew up, they didn't need to be too tall, and they didn't need to grow to the level of Yuan Tianji. Even if only 12 of them reached the level of a primary saint, it would be enough to make the entire Ink Cloud heaven suffer. But judging from the current speed, it didn't seem that difficult for this group of geniuses to reach the level of a primary saint, if they continued to maintain such a terrifying speed of improvement. Uncle Hu and Uncle Ma subconsciously looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. If that's the case, it looks like Yuan Tianji really poked a hornet's nest this time. If this group of geniuses all grew up, alright. There was also that mysterious assassin from before. That mysterious assassin was at least at the level of a saint. That person was obviously on Chu Yang's side. The 2 of them took a deep breath and sat opposite each other, speechless for a moment. So, in this world, some people can't be provoked, some people can't be provoked, some people can fight with their lives, and some people can destroy a part of the world. It's still the same sentence I told you before. In this world, there are only things you can't think of, but there's nothing you can't do. Tan Tan snorted and said, for example, us brothers, understand? Yao Ningning was full of admiration. Amazing. Then I won't provoke them. It's good that you understand. Let's go. Let's quickly send Sister Lu'er to see her brother. The expression on Tan Tan's face was pained for a moment. If we go late, I'm afraid I'll be unlucky again. Sigh, I just entered the sect a few days later than him. Everyone obviously entered with their butts naked. Why is he the senior brother? He's also not as handsome as me. At this point, he suddenly thought of something and turned to face Chu Lu. He said very solemnly, Sister Lu, don't you think I've become more handsome? Don't you think I've become more handsome? The same sentence came out of the 2 people's mouths at the same time. Tan Tan was dumbfounded when he heard this. Chu Lu giggled. She was very proud of herself. How could Chu Lu not know about Tan Tan's narcissism after being with him for such a long time? Tan Tan had suddenly looked at him with a serious expression. So, he knew that Tan Tan was going to say those words. So, he simply helped him to say them in advance. If she didn't help him say it in advance, who knew how much effort would be wasted? Yao Ningning's face darkened. Nonsense. Why are you here? How can you be here? Chu Yang was unable to restrain his anger. He waved his hand a few times, but in the end he couldn't bear to hit her. He could only sigh, "This place is so dangerous. Even a saint expert would have to worry about dying at any time here. What are you doing here, little girl? Are you trying to cause trouble?" Chula was on the verge of tears. "Big brother, I'm just worried about you." Her eyes turned red as well. She rubbed the corner of her clothes, feeling extremely aggrieved. Her petite figure looked even more pitiful. Yao Ningning and Tan Tan felt very distressed. So, they hastily stepped forward to mediate. Chu Yang smiled bitterly. Did Chu Le go through so many hardships since she was young? How could she really cry just because of one sentence from him? This girl was clearly putting on an act to gain sympathy. Luckily, those two stubborn people believed her. If it were Gu Duxing, Mo Tianji and the others, it would already be good if they didn't add insult to injury. So, it was still very important to understand. I'm talking about my senior brother. Tan Tan had just opened his mouth when Chu Yang glared at him. Seeing that Chu Yang was actually about to roll up his sleeves, he hurriedly changed the way he addressed him. "Actually, it's really a good thing that Le's here." "Good thing?" Chu Yang said angrily. "What good thing can this lawless little girl do? I think you're just trying to shirk the responsibility of bringing her here. I was so focused on talking about her just now that I almost forgot to mention you, you scoundrel." Tan Tan winked mysteriously. "You don't know. As the saying goes, man proposes, God disposes. Now, is the princess of Demon Emperor Heaven. At least, this identity won't be exposed in these 2 days. As for the princess's entourage, she needs a large number of entourages." Attendant? Chu Yang frowned. He immediately pondered over Tan Tan's words. "Aren't those people of yours worried about where to go now? It just so happens that they're all new faces. As the princess's entourage, let them sneak out of the city first." Tan Tan laughed. "As long as they get out of Lone Bamboo City, they'll be able to do whatever they want. Man proposes, God disposes. Little Sister Le's arrival has brought us a great opportunity." Chu Yang pondered for a while and felt somewhat bitter in his heart. He said, "To be honest, I've never thought of making use of the relationship here in Demon Emperor Heaven. You and the little demon are friends and I really don't want to destroy this friendship. But now, I'm afraid that no matter what, I have to make use of it once." Tan Tan continued to argue irrationally. "I say, senior brother, your way of thinking is a little narrow-minded. How can you say that you're making use of the relationship in Demon Emperor Heaven? Le is your sister and her entourage is also your subordinate. How can you say that you're making use of?" This sentence made Yao Ningning's face fill with tears. Damn it, after making use of them, he finally said that he didn't help at all. Why is this big brother Tan of mine so unreliable? Chu was the one who understood Chu Yang the best. She said slowly, "Big brother, would you rather let them all die here than make use of the relationship in Demon Emperor Heaven? And it's a method that you know is very promising?" Chu Yang was suddenly enlightened. Chu Le's words poked at the crux of the matter. "That's right. As long as there's hope for our brothers to survive, it doesn't matter whose strength we make use of," Chu Yang muttered. Chu Le looked at Chu Yang with her intelligent eyes. She said, "Big brother, your mentality now seems a little wrong. I know Big Brother's pride and I also know that Big Brother wants to use your own strength to bring all of them out without any external help. But the problem now is that our strength hasn't grown to that stage yet. You can kill a few thousand people, but in the face of countless pursuers, can you kill all of them by yourself?" Chu Yang said softly, "Sister, you're right. I've been blinded by the pride that I shouldn't have. I'm really too conceited and I even have to deliberately use words to cover it up." He paused for a while and said, "My mentality really needs to be adjusted." 2 consecutive sighs, but they contained 2 completely different meanings. Chapter 2140. Ever since the tribulation space was unexpectedly sealed off without warning, and a considerable portion of the tribulation sword's powerful auxiliary functions were also sealed, Chu Yang felt very lost for a period of time. He only felt that his luck was no longer there. However, it only took a very short period of time for him to adjust his mentality. At that moment, Chu Yang had a kind of realization in his heart. All the support and backup were gone, and that meant that there was only himself in the world, and only himself to move forward alone. Then I will use my own strength to move forward and break out. What am I afraid of? I can do it with my own strength. After continuously moving forward like this, Chu Yang developed a wonderful feeling that he had never felt before. Although there was no one to rely on, although there was no support and no one to rely on, this feeling was very comfortable and very free. It was a kind of carefree feeling of being able to do whatever he wanted. Therefore, Chu Yang made up his mind and completely cut off all his escape routes. He broke out of the eastern royal heavens, far away from the possibility of Shui Leihan's protection. He actually didn't leave any support for himself at all. Just like that, he walked all the way until now. Chu Yang was already somewhat used to this kind of life where he had to rely on his own strength to complete everything. Although the process was a little difficult, it was still enjoyable. Even if he was hunted down, it was the same. Chu Yang could even feel that his tenacity, endurance and faith were all increasing rapidly as if they were crazy. Could it be that he relied too much on those external forces in the past? The help from the Calamity Sword, the help from Shui Leihan, the help from too many opportunities, was his own hard work a little too little? Therefore, he subconsciously developed a kind of feeling. Even if I am at the end of my rope, even if I don't rely on any external forces, I can still get through it all the same. This was the typical mentality of a strong cultivator. However, Chu Yang was a little conceited. But now, Chu Lu's words had enlightened him. Yes, he could indeed get through it, but it didn't mean that others could too. The situation now was obvious. Even if he could escape in the end, Bai Yu Chen and the others were destined to die. Since he had accepted them, he couldn't just watch them die. There should be trade-offs and choices in everything. There was nothing wrong with upholding the mentality of the strong. However, when one's human strength reached its limit and needed external help, it was a wrong kind of obsession. At this moment, Chu Yang's state of mind sublimated once again, and his temperament became even more perfect. Having made up his mind, Chu Yang instantly made a decision. Since that's the case, let's do it this way. I will immediately gather them and resolve this crisis as soon as possible. At the side, Yao Ningning suddenly felt an indescribable shock. Although it seemed like a short conversation between a brother and sister, and it couldn't even be said to be short, the whole process was only a short sentence, but it contained a lot and revealed a lot. What kind of group is this? The small one could berate the big one, but the big one had a clear view of the entire situation. He had a high position and power, but he could immediately come to his senses and admit it in front of everyone. When he realized his mistake, he immediately made up for it. This included a brand new change in his temperament. All the arrows pointed to the most perfect trend. Yao Ningning asked herself, if I were in Chu Yang's position, would I accept other people's opinions so humbly? Moreover, he had to immediately change himself and realize his own shortcomings. Yao Ningning shook her head bitterly. I can't do that. In fact, Yao Ningning was very willful to begin with. Coupled with the habit of being high and mighty that had been imperceptibly cultivated over the years, she couldn't listen to other people's opinions at all. Therefore, she could understand how hard it was to achieve what Chu Yang was doing now. Honest advice is unpleasant to the ear. Knowing was beneficial to carrying out, this was beyond doubt. But unpleasant to the ear was unpleasant to the ear. Unpleasant to the ear was unpleasant to the ear. No one was willing to hear unpleasant words. This was beyond doubt as well. Not long after, Chu Yang summoned Bai Yu Chen and the others with a secret method. They put on makeup very carefully and changed their faces into new ones. Yao Ningning did it personally and added some characteristics of the demon race to each of them. Then she released her own demonic aura to enhance each of them a little. The demonic aura of the Demon Royal Highness naturally carried the majesty of the royal family. And the followers of the Demon Royal Highness naturally also needed the majestic aura of the royal family. Only when all of this was added together could it be truly flawless. All the possibilities of being seen through by Mo Yuntian and the others were completely nipped in the bud. Just as everyone was about to leave Lone Bamboo City, an unexpected piece of news suddenly came out of nowhere, shocking the world. At night, two streaks of sword energy, one from the east and one from the west, suddenly tore through the void and cut through the sky. Countless people saw these two streaks of domineering aura that came out of nowhere. One was lonely and the other was cold-blooded killing. The two streaks of sword energy only had one thing in common, and that was cold and merciless. Using the heavens as a chopping board and viewing all living beings as meat. For a moment, everyone who knew about what happened back then felt an indescribable shock. Because these two streaks of sword energy explained two things. The birth of the absolute heaven sword technique. The birth of the cloudy heaven sword technique. The absolute heaven sword and the cloudy heaven sword were originally the inheritances of two peerless swordsmen from 2 million years ago. The two sword techniques contained all of these two swordsmen, and even a part of their cultivation. In other words, as long as one was fated to understand the mystery of the sword techniques, he would be able to transform into a peerless expert like a Buddha. It was truly a step to the heavens. 2 million years ago, two peerless swordsmen appeared out of nowhere. Both of their fathers were extremely outstanding martial artists, but in a battle, they met on a narrow path. After a tragic battle, both of them perished together. Thus, these two became mortal enemies from their youth. As they continued to rise, no matter how much one of them encountered, or how hard he worked, the other would always be able to catch up in a very short period of time. The two of them fought for hundreds of thousands of years, but in the end, they became two swordsmen. It would be fine if the two of them were just fighting out of appreciation for each other. However, the core of the problem was that the hatred between the two of them could not be resolved. Even if the two of them wanted to, there was no leeway. Because the swords of the two of them were stained with the blood of countless loved ones of the other party. This was the result that would only end when at least one of them fell for eternity. Finally, that day came, and the two of them agreed to fight. After fighting for a day and a night, they began to fight with their lives on the line. In the end, like their fathers, they died under each other's swords at the same time. When the tip of one of their swords pierced the other's heart, the sword energy destroyed the other's soul and body, and his own heart was also pierced by the other's sword at the same time. That cause really led to the result of the two of them walking together in the spring. However, before they died, the two of them had a great enlightenment at the same time. Using their dissipating souls as the pen, their bones as the paper, and their blood as the ink, they created each other's life experience, the cloudy heaven sword technique. Absolute heaven sword technique. It was said that before the two of them died, they swore that they would never be enemies in the next life. The moment the sword technique was completed, the swords of the two of them turned into two majestic sword energy and entered the two sword techniques. From then on, the two shocking books turned into two ordinary sword techniques that looked nothing special. The two sword techniques disappeared without a trace. And today, after a gap of 2 million years, these two sword techniques actually appeared on the same day again. Another storm. Who knew which two lucky ones would be able to obtain the inheritance of these two saints after a gap of 2 million years? For a moment, the entire heaven palace was shaking. The attraction of these two sword techniques was too great, enough to tempt and shake the will of any expert below the level of a saint. In the second half of the night, the wind and clouds suddenly surged again. Just when the shock caused by the two sword techniques had not dissipated, another strange phenomenon appeared in the north and south. This time, it was a golden dragon and a golden phoenix that appeared in the sky, illuminating the sky and giving color to the universe. The golden dragon soared through the sky, its entire body emitting a golden light. Everyone within a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles could see it. The phoenix soared into the sky, spreading its wings to a distance of thousands of miles. Its whole body was burning with brilliant flames, dazzling and majestic. All living things in the world were intimidated. At night, Chu Yang, Tan Tan, Chu Le, and Yao Ningning stood on the roof, watching the strange phenomenon tonight. Looking at the two majestic sword energy that came from afar, everyone was lost in thought. The golden dragon and golden phoenix that came later made Chu Yang, Chu Lu, and Tan Tan's eyes brighten. Yao Ningning clearly saw that in the eyes of these three people, there was uncontrollable joy. That was clearly a kind of pride that came from the bottom of their hearts. Tan Tan looked at the strange phenomenon in the distance, as if he had understood something, but also as if he was a little anxious. Suddenly, with a ting sound, his whole body emitted a dense devil energy that hadn't been seen in a long time. He immediately withdrew it. However, Tan Tan's pupils suddenly turned black. In fact, it was a color that was even darker than the dark night. The three people beside him noticed Tan Tan's abnormality at the same time. Chu Yang's complexion changed instantly, and he grabbed Tan Tan's pulse to confirm his condition. Tan Tan didn't resist, and let Chu Yang grab his pulse and infuse his primary energy to check. He only smiled and said, "I'm fine." Only after Chu Yang confirmed that there was nothing wrong with Tan Tan did he take a deep breath and said, "I haven't asked you, your awakening, how is it?" Tan Tan smiled strangely and said, "Tan Tan is Tan Tan no matter what. I won't disappear." Chu Yang heaved a long sigh of relief again. The worry that had been buried in the bottom of his heart for a long time finally disappeared at this moment. Tan Tan's words explained a lot of things, and Chu Yang was pleasantly surprised for a moment. Tan Tan wouldn't disappear, and this was enough. "We have to hurry," Chu Yang smiled and said something that didn't make any sense. Yao Ningning clearly saw a dazzling light in Chu Yang's eyes at this moment. His condition was very bad these 2 days, and he was inexplicably lazy and inexplicably depressed. He had worked hard for several years, and he suddenly felt at a loss when he suddenly relaxed. Chapter 2141. Tan Tan's words explained a lot of things, and Chu Yang was pleasantly surprised for a moment. For Chu Yang, the Demon King's soul was also an existence that was hard to shake, especially when it was inseparable from Tan Tan's body. Now that he got Tan Tan's personal guarantee that it would not disappear, it was enough for him. The world is big and there are all kinds of strange things. There are only things that you can't think of, but nothing is impossible. We also have to make the best use of our time. Chu Yang smiled and said something that didn't make any sense. Yao Ningning clearly saw the dazzling light in Chu Yang's eyes at this moment. This sudden sentence must have some meaning, but she didn't understand it. Tan Tan smiled. "In the past, I always heard that there were people who got lucky, and I used to think that my luck was already too much. Now that I've seen what kind of luck is like, I know the gap. If I'm really inferior to him, I'll be too ashamed." Chu Yang laughed and said, "Come with me." Yao Ningning looked at Chu Yang and Chu Lu walking in, and couldn't help but be confused. She said, "Brother Tan, what's wrong today? I heard everything you said to Big Brother very clearly. Every single word. But why can't I understand a single word?" Tan Tan squinted and said, "This is the so-called Jianghu experience. The Jianghu needs you to have a higher comprehension ability. In some words, every word often contains 7 or 8 meanings. If you can't understand, you'll be beaten or even killed." Tan Tan walked away. "My words are profound, and you'll probably need a few days to comprehend them. I won't stop you from comprehending, and I'll go back to sleep." Yao Ningning stood in the wind in a daze, and carefully considered Tan Tan's words. Suddenly, she felt a lingering fragrance in her mouth. So, this is the so-called Jianghu experience. I want to comprehend, and comprehend. So, she began to study Chu Yang's words. The more she thought about it, the more she felt that it was unfathomable, and the more she understood, the more she felt that its meaning was extraordinary. "I haven't asked you, your awakening, how is it? The world is big and there are all kinds of strange things. There are only things that you can't think of, and nothing is impossible. We have to hurry up." And just these 3 sentences, encompassing everything, including everything under the heavens and earth, these 3 sentences were like a grain of sand between heaven and earth. Yao Ningning racked her brains to carefully comprehend. "I haven't asked you?" Why didn't he ask? There was definitely a profound mystery behind this. Awakening? What awakening? Awaken what? There were definitely many stories, past events, memories, and anecdotes. After saying that he had awakened, he even paused for a moment and asked why. Even though I've reached a new realm, I haven't forgotten what I've learned. It's truly profound and endless. The world is so big and full of wonders. As long as you can think of something, nothing is impossible. We have to hurry up too. The first part of this sentence is easier to understand. Brother Tan has already told me this many times before. It's just that I don't have enough experience in Jianghu, so it's hard for me to fully grasp it. Given time, I'll do my best to accumulate more experience in Jianghu, and I'll get used to it. That's right, there's a deeper meaning to it, which is to be calm and steady. You won't lose your sense of propriety because of any unforeseen circumstances. As for the second half of the sentence, we have to hurry up. Why did he have to hurry? Why did he have to hurry up now? And that word, also, it really reveals too much and it also hides too much. There must be too many secrets in here. Just a short chuckle and it conveys so many layers of meaning. He's really experienced in Jianghu. He's really an expert in this field. He's really an expert. I really don't know how many tens of thousands of years I'll have to accumulate before I can truly understand its profoundness. Yao Ningning thought in a daze. She had a look of, I won't go to sleep if I can't figure it out. However, although Chu Yang's words did indeed have other meanings, although each word did indeed have several meanings, it really differed from person to person. Probably only the group of brothers who came up with Chu Yang could understand it. As for the others, especially outsiders, even if DE and Empress were to gather, they would definitely not be able to decipher the meaning. This was a fundamental problem, not a matter of cultivation level. As for Yao Ningning, who seemed to have fallen into a trance at this moment, she took Tan Tan's twisted logic as the truth. She lost herself because she wanted to understand. Chu Yang called Chu Le. Big brother, what do you want me to do? Chu was a little excited and curious. She knew that her big brother usually wouldn't be so serious. But once he was like this, it must be something good, and something big. I previously obtained the inheritance of the Poison King by chance. Chu Yang said, take a look and see if there's any conflict with your original inheritance of the poison technique. If it's feasible, cultivate with this technique. If there's any conflict, don't force yourself to try. Chu immediately became excited when she heard that. Since Chu Yang said so, it definitely wouldn't be an inheritance in the ordinary sense. Then Chu Yang stretched out a finger, condensed all his mental energy, and gently tapped on Chu Lu's bright and clean forehead. Then Chu Lu suddenly felt a huge amount of information suddenly pouring into her mind without any warning. The amount of information was so huge that Chu Lu couldn't help but feel dizzy for a moment. Fortunately, she recovered in a moment. The inheritance of the Poison King. Chu Lu's mind was completely immersed in it in an instant. After a long time, Chu suddenly stood up and said in surprise and joy, Big brother. But because her mind was too agitated, her blood and qi went against the flow for a moment. Suddenly, she was forcefully pulled away from her cultivation and immediately showed signs of the technique backfiring. As a result, her mind was shaken, and she spat out a mouthful of blood. Chu Yang was shocked. He hurriedly pressed his hand against her back and channeled his pure energy to help her calm down her blood and qi. He grumbled, You're going to vomit. You're already so old, why are you still so impatient? No matter when or what situation it is, can't you talk about it after you've finished cultivating? Although Chu Lu still felt her blood and qi surging and her insides burning, she was still extremely excited. Finally, with Chu Yang's help, her blood and qi calmed down. She opened her mouth and said excitedly, Big brother, where did you get this from? Chu Yang asked, Why? Is it useful? If there's any conflict, don't force yourself to cultivate it. Is it useful? Chu rolled her eyes. It's not just useful, it's really useful. Although I've only seen less than half of the contents, just half of what I know is already enough for me to cultivate for a long time. Do you know? This inheritance is actually the sky poison sect's inheritance that has been lost for tens of thousands of years. Furthermore, it's far more complete than the ones I've learned before. If I'm not wrong, this inheritance should be the handwritten copy of the sky poison sect's founder. Furthermore, it's very possible that someone obtained a portion of the inheritance and established the sky poison sect. The things in here are simply too useful. Chu Yang heaved a sigh of relief. So that's how it is. Since it's useful, I'm relieved. Seeing Chu Yang so relaxed, Chu Lu said discontentedly, "Big brother, how can you be so casual about everything? For such a big matter, you should at least open your eyes wide and mouth wide, right? This is a poison inheritance that's much better than the sky poison sect's highest inheritance. I'm afraid it's hard to find an existence that can be on par with it in the Tao of poison." Chu Yang laughed and rubbed Lu's hair vigorously. He said, "Little girl, you're so smart." In just a few strokes, the hairstyle that Chu Lu had painstakingly styled looked like a chicken's nest. Amidst Chu Lu's discontented grumbling, Chu Yang walked out of the door in a relaxed manner. Only Chu Lu was left alone, diligently studying the Poison King's inheritance. The little girl was obviously in high spirits and inexplicably excited. She actually didn't sleep the whole night and devoted herself to studying. Early morning. Under the calm gazes of Elder Hu and Elder Ma. There was something that needed to be explained here. These two great experts looked extremely calm on the surface, but in their hearts, huge waves were surging and rolling. Because the freshly baked demon race eldest princess suddenly had a large group of followers, as if she was born out of thin air. And none of them were mediocre. They all had the unique aura of the demon race's royal family. But the problem was that the two great experts who were most familiar with the demon race's royal family actually didn't recognize any of these people. The only thing that was certain was that this group of people was the same as the so-called demon race eldest princess. They were definitely fake goods. The princess's guards, which were all made up of imposters, walked out in an orderly manner. The demon race's only princess, Chu Lu, was sitting in an extremely luxurious carriage of extremely high quality. She still looked weak and lovable, and was still dressed in white clothes that were purer than snow. But this time, not a single person dared to come and check. To still come and check, were they courting death? Even if they were courting death, they wouldn't come and go like this. All the Mo Yuntian soldiers who saw this scene deeply understood this point, so they all forced themselves to turn their faces to the side. They really couldn't afford to offend them. Yao Ningning was leading the way at the front, walking together with Tan Tan and Chu Yang. As they walked, they talked, and from time to time, they would let out bursts of laughter. It was obvious that they were in a very good mood. Uncle Hu and Uncle Ma were behind them, and they walked together. Their expressions were calm, and there was no expression on their faces, as if there were no ripples in an ancient well. Just like that, the group of people walked out of the south gate of Lone Bamboo City without any danger or disturbance. Chapter 2142. The reason for the princess and the empress departure was too simple. The demon empress' birthday was coming. The princess and the empress had to rush back to celebrate their mother's birthday. Everyone in the Heaven Tower had a long lifespan. Even an ordinary person could have a lifespan of 100 to 200 years. The lifespan of martial artists was even longer, especially those who had reached the level of the demon empress, who were almost immortal. The so-called birthday had already lost its meaning. If one really had to celebrate a birthday every year, then a conservative estimate would be millions of birthdays. Therefore, the birthday of super experts had changed the rules according to the circumstances. For example, the demon empress only celebrated her birthday once, and it was called her birthday. In other words, on average, she would only celebrate her birthday once every 100 years. As for other times, she would at most gather a few close friends for a meal, or she might as well just do it. A martial artist's life seemed to be spent in seclusion for a long period of time. Usually, one seclusion would last for decades. How could one celebrate a birthday? Celebrating a birthday was simply a waste of time. After all, people like Chu Yang, Tan Tan, Chu Le and the rest of the brothers, who were only in their 20s and had reached a level that ordinary people couldn't reach in their lifetime, were really too rare. However, the special birthday that super experts chose themselves, such as the Demon Empress birthday, was different from ordinary birthdays. Speaking of the Demon Empress birthday this time, they had already started preparing a few years in advance. It was definitely the grandest festival in the Demon Emperor heaven in recent times. It was incomparable. As a son and a daughter, they definitely had to rush back to celebrate their mother's birthday. There was nothing wrong with that. This year was indeed the year of the Demon Empress birthday celebration. This was not a lie. However, Uncle Hu and Uncle Ma's hearts were very clear. The birthday celebration was still at least 2 months away from now. It had to be during the coldest time of the year. Lone Bamboo City was very close to the Demon Empress Palace where the Demon Empress resided. It was at most a 7 to 8 days journey. If they wanted to hurry, they could return in 4 to 5 days. Why were they going back so early? However, both of them were experienced people. They naturally knew that the reason why their master did so was to help Chu Yang and the rest escape. As for those attendants of eldest Princess Chu Lu, it could be imagined that they were those who had escaped with Chu Yang all the way here. Anyway, these two people had long been displeased with Chu Yang's various actions. So, they felt that it was no big deal for them to help Chu Yang. It's true that the Demon Empress gave Yuan Tian face and allowed the people of Moyun Heaven to move about in the Demon Emperor Heaven. However, the Demon Empress had never explicitly forbade us from helping Chu Yang. You guys look for yourselves, we'll leave by ourselves. We'll mind our own business. Therefore, this group of people swaggered out of the southern city gate under the eyes of Mo Yuntian's tens of thousands of soldiers. Even Chu Yang didn't expect it to be so easy. Previously, they were at their wits' end and were simply waiting for death. At most, they would risk their lives and kill one to break even, and kill two to make a profit. However, in just half a day's time, the situation had taken a turn for the worse. They had turned from passive to active. They had found a way to survive in the face of death and swaggered away safely. The affairs of the world were unpredictable, and there was no place to reason with. The commander of Mo Yuntian, Yu Qi, was standing high up in the sky at this moment. His face was unusually dark as he looked at Chu Yang's group walking out of the city gate. His eyes seemed to be burning with a dense ghost fire. Commander Yu, this group of people are all unfamiliar faces. Even though they are the followers of the Demon Princess and have some style, but there is something strange and suspicious about them. We have to guard against them. One person said. Yu Jiao snorted and said, "What do you mean by strange? What do you mean by suspicious? What do you mean by a demonic princess attendant? It's clearly those people." All the deputy generals had this guess in their hearts, but no one dared to say it out loud. At this moment, seeing the commander say it himself, Tong Yi's face darkened. If that's the case, then we can't do it now. Time is not on our side. Yu Qi's face darkened. The demon princess entered the city alone? Those who entered the city a while ago had already been marked with divine sense marks. But these people didn't have any divine sense marks at all. How did these followers suddenly appear? All this proves that this is Chu Yang's group. In other words, the Yao are helping Chu Yang's group. Yu Qi's face became even darker. However, through this matter, we can confirm one thing. This is the intention of that Yao Empress, Yao Ningning, or this so-called princess, and not the decision of the Yao Emperor, Tian Yao Empress. Fortunately, this is the case. Yes. The generals nodded. Yu Qi's conclusion was very reasonable. Right now, in Lone Bamboo City, we cannot act. If we act, even if Chu Yang's group is completely destroyed by us, we will become enemies with the Yao Empress. Yu Qi chuckled and said with great relish, "Yao Empress? Empress? Ha!" Everyone could hear the hidden anger in Commander Yu's voice. Who dared to speak at this time? They all kept their mouths shut. When had Commander Yu ever endured such humiliation in his lifetime of battle? Only this time, in Yao Emperor's heaven, he was scolded by the Yao Empress like never before, and the scolding was the worst kind. Everyone could guess the anger Commander Yu felt right now. Has the news come back? Yuqi asked in a low voice. Not yet. It seems that Yao Emperor's heaven is very wary of this. A vice commander at the side answered. We most likely have to go to other places to investigate. We won't be able to get anything from Lone Bamboo City. The people we sent out will only come back in the afternoon at the earliest. The news from Tian Yao's heaven has not come back, another person answered. Yuqi's brow furrowed. Hurry. Have you scouted the terrain ahead? Has everything been arranged? Yuqi's expression became even darker. It has been arranged. However, if we were to guess, then wouldn't we? The deputy general said hesitantly. We can't care so much now. Murderousness flashed through Yuqi's eyes. If that is the case, as long as we do it cleanly, there won't be any problems. At least, it is not something we need to worry about. The generals at the side all had heavy expressions. The atmosphere seemed to freeze. The movements of Yao Empress and the others had gradually disappeared from everyone's sight. Yuqi's expression became even more gloomy. After a long while, she said in a low voice, Send orders to Meng Wuxia. Tell him and Zhan Meng to prepare. Once there is news, Zhan Meng and Meng Wuxia will be in charge of the first wave of action. After Chu Yang and the others left the city, they did not dare to move rashly in order to avoid being tracked by the enemy's saint-level divine sense. They continued to move forward slowly, as if they were on a scenic tour. This was often the most critical moment. Once there was any movement, it was possible that it would be noticed by someone with ulterior motives. Then, the current advantageous situation would be broken in an instant. Although everyone was burning with anxiety, they could only act leisurely on the surface. Big brother, it is very likely that the enemy has already discovered some clues. It is impossible that they are not suspicious at all, Chu Lu said. It is definitely not that they are not suspicious. However, even if they are suspicious, it does not matter for the time being. The situation now is very delicate. As long as we do not reveal any obvious flaws, the enemy will not act rashly. However, once we show any signs of panic, they will be sure. As long as they are sure, they will immediately take action. Chu Yang said softly, So what we need to do is to remain calm. Even if they are suspicious now, as long as they do not have concrete evidence, they will definitely not dare to act rashly. And during this period of time when they do not dare to act rashly, it is our operating space. Chu Lu said, but this is ultimately not a long-term plan. As long as they are sure, they will immediately catch up. Under the feet of experts, this distance is nothing at all. In fact, it is not even considered a distance. Chu Yang nodded. However, as we get further away from the city, there will be relatively more forests around us. This will increase our chances and safety. Chu Lu said, but it is ultimately still very dangerous. There is no more complete way. It is impossible that there is no danger, and it is also impossible that we will not be discovered. It is already very commendable that we can achieve the current situation. If it were not for your unexpected arrival, perhaps my subordinates and I would have already been finished. Chu Yang's expression was solemn. So we can only plan for the worst, and then strive for the best and do our best. As for the rest, Chu Yang looked up at the sky and said heavily, we can only leave it to fate. Chu Lu and Tan Tan were silent and did not say a word. Yao Ningning laughed and said, Big brother, don't worry. This is the Demon Emperor Heaven. With me in charge, who would dare to act rashly? Could it be that Yuqi would dare to kill me as well? You can rest assured that he would have the guts to do so. Hearing this, Uncle Hu and Uncle Ma at the side were also in agreement with Yao Ningning's words. Killing a demon in the Demon Emperor Heaven, unless Yuqi had gone crazy. Not to mention the Demon Emperor Heaven, no matter where it was, even if the other party was a celestial emperor himself, as long as it was not a last resort, he would definitely not make a move on a demon from another world. Especially a demon like Yao Ningning, who was the only surviving celestial emperor. Chu Yang laughed and did not speak anymore. Tan Tan rolled his eyes and did not speak either, because at this moment, the two of them had the same thought. So what if I kill a demon in the Demon Emperor Heaven? As long as I do it secretly and without leaving any traces, So what if the demon empress is furious? As long as the real culprit is not found, what does the life and death of others have to do with me? Of course, these words could not be said out loud. Especially in the current situation where these three people from the demon race were so awesome. Perhaps a celestial emperor would have many misgivings and would not make a move on Yao Ningning. But to Chu Yang, Tan Tan, and even Chu Lu, as long as you were a threat to them, they would get rid of you. Perhaps, this was the most fundamental difference between those who were in power and those who were in power. Chu Yang could faintly feel that this journey would not be peaceful. The peace now was probably the precursor to thunder. Heaven has posted a picture of Miao Qing Cheng that the game company made. Everyone, go take a look and see if it looks like him. Those who are not following my Weibo, please search Wind Rides the World in the public Weibo and you will see it. Thank you, everyone. Chapter 2143. In the afternoon, the sky was getting dark, and they had already traveled more than 10 miles. Helpers naturally couldn't be compared to ordinary people. No matter how idle they were, they still managed to complete the journey. Luohua City is about 3,500 miles ahead, less than 4,000 miles away. Yao Ningning's spirits were suddenly lifted. She felt like she was in a dream. Chu Yang's heart skipped a beat. Luohua City? He suddenly remembered a saying that he had not heard for a long time. If we meet again in the clouds, please sweep away the fallen flowers in Jianghu. He couldn't help but feel excited. Could this Luohua City be the place where his lover was now? Between Lone Bamboo City and Luohua City, there are no signs of human habitation. Uncle Hu looked a little worried. At this speed, we may be fast or slow, but I'm afraid we will have to spend the night in Yama Gorge. Uncle Ma's eyebrows suddenly furrowed tightly on his long horse face. You mean, Uncle Hu said, I hope I'm wrong. Chu Yang, however, felt a burst of horror in his heart. He hurriedly asked, what is Yama's Gorge? Yama Gorge is an extremely mysterious place in the Demon Emperor Heaven. A long time ago, there was an extremely fierce battle in Yama Gorge. At that time, there were 5 high-level sages, more than 10 low-level sages, and more than 30 low-level sages. In addition to these sages, there were also thousands of experts led by each of them. It was a chaotic battle in Yama Gorge. It's funny. The reason for this chaotic battle is the biggest mystery for more than 1,000,000 years. Until now, no one knows the reason. However, in that battle, none of the tens of thousands of top experts, including the 5 high-level sages, came out alive. They all died in there. Even with Chu Yang's composure, his face still couldn't help but twitch. Saints are close to being immortal and indestructible. Even a primary saint is the same. So many saints who had participated in the battle had actually all died there? It was also because of that battle that the number of sages in the Heaven Imperial Court was reduced by half. Uncle Hu sighed. Originally, although a battle between saints is not common, it still happens from time to time. However, ever since that battle, the remaining saints among the experts are basically in the great heavens and earth's government. The saints in the Jianghu who participated in the battle have also become the ancestors of their sections. They can't easily show themselves. After more than 1,000,000 years of recuperation, it has recovered to its current state. However, there is still a gap between its strength and its heyday. Especially in Jianghu. Even after tens of thousands of years, we might not even see a saint. Uncle Ma laughed bitterly. Oh, Chu Yang replied. So that was the case. When he rushed up to the heavenly imperial court, he had heard a sentence, how many sages are there in the entire Jianghu? The reason was actually this. The experts of the government were all of high status and power. They didn't need to make a move themselves, and there weren't many of them in Jianghu. Why is this Yama Gorge so mysterious? Chu Yang said as he walked. Could it be that there's some great danger in this Yama Gorge that can actually bury a saint? I don't know. Uncle Hu smiled bitterly. Since ancient times, Yama Gorge has always been like this. Even a stone has never been changed. Nor has it been destroyed. Because it can't be destroyed at all. Uncle Hu said softly, As long as one enters the Yama Gorge, it's like entering the limitless hell. Such a road is a full 300 miles. Even birds can't cross it. Actually, it's not just birds. In the sky above Yama Gorge, even saints can't cross it. This is one of the 3 unsolved mysteries of the heavenly imperial court. Uncle Ma's face was gloomy. It's also one of the few mysterious places in this world that can't be seen through by others. Even saints will perish in there. Those who can't resist will perish. It's like the Yama of the underworld controlling life and death. Therefore, after that battle, this place was named Yama Gorge. Chu Yang smiled. Is the Yama of the underworld so terrifying? Uncle Hu and Uncle Ma smiled bitterly at the same time. The Yama of the underworld, to be honest, his cultivation is about the same level as Di Ho. Of course, he can't control the life and death of so many saints at the same time. The Yama Gorge is just a symbolic name. I see. Chu Yang's eyes flashed. No one knew what he was thinking. If Yu Chi set up an ambush there? The two frowned at the same time and thought of a possibility that didn't exist at all. Chu Yang also frowned. In that case, this Yama Gorge really was an extremely dangerous place. At the same time, in the sky above Lone Bamboo City. Marshal Yu, there's news from that side. Speak. We have reliable news. Yao Emperor Tian Yao Tai Ningning is the only son of the Yao Empress. There are no brothers or sisters. Therefore, that so-called princess of the Yao race definitely doesn't exist. Send people to report. The Yao Empress only has one son and no daughter. News came from both sides at the same time. The news that Yu Chi had been waiting for. After hearing the news, Yu Chi's expression grew uglier. It wasn't just him. In reality, everyone in Mo Yuntian was furious. As expected, they had been tricked. He had been completely fooled by the group of people led by the Demon Clan's supreme demon Ningning. Yu Chi took a deep breath and said, "First, send orders to Meng Wuya. Have him and his people immediately move. Then order the Imperial Guard to mobilize 2,000 people. Other than that, order the 10,000 blood fiends lying in ambush at Yama Gorge to wait for the signal and move at any time. 10 great generals. Present. All of you, follow this marshal and move out together. We have to use a thunderous momentum to capture all of these traitors. Cut the weeds at the roots and leave nothing behind. Yes. Have the people left behind raise the flag of this marshal. Arrange for the shadow troop to disguise as you and me. We have to create the illusion that we are still in Lone Bamboo City. Yes. Move out. Marshal Yu, how should we deal with Yao Tai Yao Ning? Someone asked. A thread of hatred and murderous intent flashed through Yu Chi's eyes. He frowned and hesitated for a while before saying, "Let's be lenient. If we cannot kill, then try not to kill. First, use experts to control him. When the mission is completed, then release him. Even though he has offended me before, but the fury of the Demon Empress is not something that can be easily endured. There is no need to complicate matters and create an unparalleled enmity for no reason. If Tai Yao really dies, the Demon Empress will be furious. I fear that the entire Demon Emperor Heaven and Mo Yuntian will sink into a sea of blood and mountains of corpses. It doesn't matter if there is a foundation or not. As long as it is someone related to Tai Yao, they will not be spared. I will not be an exception. I, Yu Chi, cannot bear such consequences." Yu Chi hesitated for a long time before finally making such a decision. It was not that they could not kill. It was that they did not dare to kill. This was a sincere statement. Just like what Yao Ning once said, your Heaven Emperor Mo Yuntian has so many sons. Even if one dies, it is still so shocking. That is our demon clan's only princess. Right now, the only princess naturally did not exist. However, Tai Yao was indeed the only one. If the Demon Empress' only son was killed, the Demon Empress' reaction would definitely be much greater than Yuan Tianji's death. Even Yuan Tianji himself did not dare to do such a thing, let alone Yu Chi. Dusk fell as scheduled. The thin mist first enveloped the entire land. Chu Yang and the others, just as the two elders predicted, came to a mountain within the time limit. Looking around as far as the eye could see, there was black gas everywhere, connecting the sky and the earth. Just by taking a step forward, one could not see the fingers on one's hand. Taking a step back, it was still dusk, blurring one's vision. Seeing such a strange place for the first time made everyone click their tongues in wonder. However, as gusts of chilly wind blew out from the canyon, everyone could not help but feel a kind of eerie and terrifying feeling. The timid ones even felt their hair stand on end. That feeling was as if all the wronged souls in the land of hell had nowhere to redress their grievances since ancient times. Over the years, the boundless grievances accumulated were all stored here, thus forming this indescribable monstrous grievances in front of them. It was truly killing gods and Buddhas when they saw them. No matter if it was humans, gods, ghosts, demons, or monsters, as long as they entered, they would be affected and eroded. This place is indeed an unusually dangerous place. Seeing it in person is even better than hearing about it. Chu Yang's gaze was very serious at this moment. Since ancient times, there has only been one path forward in Yama's Gorge. As long as you charge past it, you can see the light again. Yao Ning introduced excitedly, although there is a crisis in front, it can also be said to be a great spectacle. Chu Yang sighed. Such a dangerous place actually became a great spectacle in the words of this great-grandpa. To be so heartless, he was truly one of a kind. Not to mention Tan Tan, even if GMO and Luo Kadi were here, they would also have to admit defeat and be ashamed of their inferiority. May I ask the two elders, is there really no other way? Chu Yang asked. There is indeed no other way. Otherwise, how could there be only one way forward since ancient times? In that case, if we are ambushed by the enemy here, there are only two ways to deal with it, to charge forward or to retreat. There are no other ways at all? Chu Yang asked again. That's it. Didn't I just say that there is only one way forward in Yama's Gorge since ancient times? Yao Ning was a little surprised. Why is Big Boss confusing things this time? I have already said it so clearly. Why is he still asking so many questions? Chu Yang sighed deeply. For a moment, he felt his intestines were tangled up. This time, they were really screwed by this fool. We have a total of more than 30 people. Bai Yuchen and the others have 32 people. Including himself, Tan Tan, and Lu, there are 35 people. Including Yao Ning and the other two, there are only 38 people. At the very most, there are not even 40 people. But there are 70 to 80,000 people on Yu Qining's side. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Immortal Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.